A white-haired girl sat in front of Zhao Wudi's grave. It was her teacher. Before his death, the man passed the position of patriarch to the girl. The heroine was in despair because the sect of the divine dragon was destroyed. Her younger brother was arrested, and her younger sister was missing. But the white-haired girl wasn't going to run. Grabbing her bag of belongings, she decided that she couldn't die, because then the divine dragon sect might actually disappear. She headed towards the exit of the cemetery, but as she passed by one grave, she suddenly stopped. It was Ye Yun's grave. The bag fell out of the heroine's hands. Running up to the tombstone and poking her finger, the girl accused him. Ye Yun 10,000 years ago had provoked a large number of enemies. This led to the downfall of their divine dragon sect. The girl pounded the tombstone with all her might and blamed all their problems on Ye Yun. The white-haired girl angrily turned away from the grave and continued to swear, but suddenly a bony hand came out from the ground. The hand came out right next to the girl's feet. The heroine was startled and bounced away, followed by the head and then the whole bony body. The white-haired girl squealed in fright. Boney came completely out of the grave. He appeared because he heard the girl scolding him. The heroine, trembling with her whole body, looked at him fearfully. Boney only now noticed that after 10,000 years in space, his body had become like this, so he began to rebuild his body. A flask appeared in his hands out of nowhere, and he transformed and regained his human form. The heroine frightenedly thought that he was a ghost, but it was the 13th patriarch of the divine dragon sect, Ye Yun. The girl immediately, fearfully, and humbly bowed to the ground before the man and apologized. For she didn't want to scold the ancestor. They were on the mountain of the divine dragon sect's ancestral shrine. The barrier here could only be opened by the patriarch. So the man perplexedly asked what generation she was from and why she was so weak. The heroine was the 298th patriarch of the divine dragon sect, and her name was Luo Li. Ye Yun was disappointed that she was an 8th-level QE gatherer. He was dissatisfied that the world had become so weak. Luo Li awkwardly scratching her cheek, she told him that it was because of the fall of the divine dragon sect. And now she was still the last member of the sect. The sect at that time relied on Ye Yun, so they were able to break through to be among the great sects of the eternal level. So it was unexpected for him to know how much she had fallen. What was even more unexpected was that the sect had fallen to such a level that a little kid, Luo Li, of the 8th level, had become a patriarch. The girl scratching the back of her head and chuckled awkwardly. Luo Li glumly decided to tell her that after him, the sect had never produced a patriarch who could have even a tenth of his strength. The 250th patriarch had done a lot of mischief. Passing away left the divine dragon sect under siege for hundreds of years. Until now, few of the lower sects knew their sect. The man turned away from the girl and watched the foliage and said that he had reached the realm of eternity at the age of 24 and was standing on top of the Kanan continent. As a result, Ye Yun had entered the mysterious practice space, and 100,000 years had passed. The man turned back to the girl. He happily announced that he was able to successfully break through to the realm of true gods. Now the divine dragon sect would become the strongest. Luo Li was very surprised, for she didn't know that the Kanan continent had cultivated the true god realm. The man nodded in agreement. The girl clarified. That was the true god realm, where no human foot had set foot for 1,000,000 years. Ye Yun, covered in a bit of sweat droplets, once again agreed. The heroine further clarified. Then it was the realm of the true god that only existed in legends, illusory and short stories, but no one had been able to reach it. The man, a little stammering and gloomy, replied in agreement. The girl, still kneeling in front of him, all brightened up. Luo Li seriously wanted to ask something else, but Ye Yun gave her a sharp slap on the forehead and decided that now he would help her improve her abilities. The heroine was very happy about this news. The man handed her a bottle of god-level refining pill. She had to hone her skills first. The girl put her hands under the bottle. She was surprised that it was god-level, mortal, yellow, spirit, Chuan, earth, sky, royal, king, imperial, emperor level. Luo Li took the pill in her hands and said that this was the only thing that could make the ancestors of the sects of the Kanan continent fight for him. Ye Yun calmly warned that there were 10,000 pills. The heroine, bringing the pill closer, was shocked. The man scooped a handful of pills into his hand and told the girl to eat it as an appetizer, as the whole mountain could be piled up with all of it. Luo Li tried to stop him, but Ye Yun grabbed her cheeks and the girl's mouth opened. The man, without wasting time, quickly shoved the entire handful into her mouth. Something immediately started to happen to the girl. Luo Li, wiping the tears that came out of her eyes, was indignant that such a good thing was wasted. The heroine began to smell. because the effects of the bone marrow washing had already started to come out. Ye-yun covered his nose with his hand and was surprised that the effect was coming out quickly. There was no other way out, so the man waved his hand and a bathing area formed in front of them. He demanded that the girl go and wash herself. The girl, looking at the building, was puzzled. Ye-yun approached her from behind, grabbing her shoulder, telling her that she should go wash herself quickly before she turned into black mud. The man threw the girl directly into the spring. Luo Li didn't inherit even 1% of the sect's divine dragon bloodline. That's why so much mud came out after washing her marrow. The girl plunged into the water with her head. When she swam out, she noticed in a panic Luo Li was screaming, and there was something wrong with her. Ye Yun asked her not to panic. The heroine was absorbing the blood of the dragon progenitor, which was hundreds of times greater than her divine dragon bloodline. The man cheerfully said that it was what the ancestor had accumulated over the past 100,000 years, and because it was too much, it made a bathtub to bathe in. Luo Li hurriedly got up. Her outfit was burnt in some places. She was puzzled how she could take a bath from the blood of a dragon ancestor. Suddenly, the girl stopped gaining levels. The man noticed it. Luo Li blushed and happily announced that she had reached the 10th level of the Yuanhai realm. Ye-yun surprised the heroine that he didn't know which realm it was. The man awkwardly replied that he hadn't touched the low-level realms for too long, so he had forgotten about them. The realm levels of the Kanan continent were divided into body refinement, qi gathering, profound realm, Yuanhai, becoming a god, etc. There were 10 realms in total, but the teacher was no longer in these 10 realms, and the girl rather remarked that she had moved from the qi gathering realm to the Yuanhai realm. But Ye-yun frowningly said that the heroine's abilities were still poor, and the essence and blood of the dragon progenitors only allowed her to overcome the profound realm. But the girl was still excited, for this was already very powerful for her. For after the 10th level, she could soon reach the realm of becoming a god. Ye-yun used magic to give the girl clothes. He had few women's clothes. The best things were only at the king level. Luo Li looked at the things and said loudly that if she wore such clothes, she would be chased by the cultivators of Qingnan continent for the rest of her life. Ye-yun seriously asked the girl to remember that from today, only she could kill and no one else could kill her. Magic began to manifest from the man's palm. He decided to give the girl a divine level weapon, a supreme dragon sword, for protection. From it, magic ran upwards with lightning, and already down flew the formidable dragon, which landed as a sword in the girl's hands. Ye-yun said that the soul of a living dragon was sealed in the sword, and also warned that in the future, when going to the outside world, one must not disparage the name of the sect. The teacher turned away. He wanted the divine dragon sect to become the #1 sect. Luo Li interrupted him and embarrassedly said that she couldn't control the weapon. Then the man handed her an imperial scabbard that could help her seal the sword. The scabbard flew straight into the sword to the girl. Ye-yun helped her seal the weapon, but in the future, she shouldn't take the sword out of the sheath to kill people. Luo Li, holding the electrified sword in her hands, looked at it admiringly. Suddenly, the man sensed that someone was walking towards them. The girl excitedly suggested that it might have been the people who were following her. There was a group of people walking on the slope of Shenlongzong Mountain. They stopped near one of the tombstones. There was a gloomy aura above them, and lightning flashed in the sky. One of the guys, who looked like a porcupine, was asking his men if they would allow the Yuanhan kingdom to capture the girl who was the only survivor of the sect. Another man replied that despite how Luo Li was gathering energy, she was the last head of the Shenlong sect. If she was caught, then the 100-year siege would end. The white-haired man with a mustache didn't know which Lord Shenlong had gotten hit, but he had been suppressing the giant gate to destroy for years. The men stirred. Someone was walking towards them. Luo Li and Ye-yun showed from behind the trees. They landed in front of the men. The men gave way to them. One of them admiringly noticed the strong sword intent of the girl. The heroine and teacher walked past them without looking. The unknown man, calling Luo Li a fairy, rudely asked if they had seen a dirty little girl here. The heroine was angry at such a description of herself. Luo Li turned around sharply and slammed the tip of her sword into the floor, pointing her finger at herself, and asked if he was talking about this cute and beautiful girl. The men mistook her for a fairy. Then Luo Li explained to them that she was the one they were looking for. Bright lightning began to form around the sword. The unknown men began to quickly surround the heroine. The girl clutched the sword in her hands confusedly. Porcupine, pointing at Ye-yun, urged his comrades not to be afraid. After all, the girl was in the Yuanhai realm. The one behind had no base of improvement. The white-haired man thought that it was strange that an unknown person could see his ancestors' refinement base. The other bandit noticed the emperor's robe on the girl. The man with the mustache didn't believe him. He thought the man said the first thing that came to mind. But the black-haired man, licking his lips, demanded that he not be argued with. And later, after removing the outfit, they could send it to the Wanbao Pavilion to check the authenticity. Smustache, looking at the girl, smiled and agreed with his elder brother. Ye Yun, standing behind, glumly told the girl that they were going to realize her boy's idea soon. Luo Li was embarrassed and scared that these men were all from the Yuanhai kingdom. The man was angry that these pathetic thieves were able to scare her, and reminded Luo Li of the sword he had given her not for beauty. The heroine remembered that her teacher had taught her that only she could kill, but no one could take her life. The heroine pulled her sword from its sheath before she struck. The girl introduced herself as she swung. A dragon appeared from her sword. Lightning struck directly at the men. It rained heavily. The girl knocked her sword into the ground in front of her from exertion and fell to her knees. All the enemies were lying unconscious. Ye Yun opened his umbrella and approached the heroine, Luo Li leaning on her weapon, crying, because of killing these people. She abruptly grabbed the teacher's robe and burst into tears. Now she wouldn't have to run away anymore. The man placed a hand on her head. Stroking her hair, Ye Yun said, now there was no need for her to run away. Luo Li embarrassedly sat on her knees in front of him. Luo Li was upset that she had killed the bandits, and now they couldn't interrogate them about her disciples' whereabouts. But the man knew what to do. He directed his magic at one of them. His spirit burst out of the man's body through his mouth. It was a blue glow. Ye Yun directed a purification on it. White light came out of the ghost's eyes. His thoughts began to be read. After a while, the teacher said that he had found what he needed. The man told Luo Li that it was a secret soul retrieval technique, originally designed to destroy a person's soul without further reincarnation. But he changed the technique and was able to see the memories. The white-haired man turned to the girl and asked if she knew where the Ridge of 1,000 Souls was. The girl angrily replied that there were countless evil spirits dwelling there. The ridge itself led to the underworld, and there was only one sect there. Luo Li guessed that was where her disciple had been taken. A creepy skull with huge horns loomed over the tombstone of the Ridge of 1,000 Souls, its eyes glowing with blue-white flames. There were many people walking toward the red water. The demon whipped a man with his whip and shouted for them all to go faster. One of the captives came to the edge. He didn't want to jump, but the masked men pushed him into the red water. Ye Yun and Luo Li watched this process from above, standing on a huge sword blade. From below, there was a ritual that was performed once every 100 years. It was called lighting the heavenly lantern. The man asked what kind of ritual it was. The girl worriedly replied that according to legend, evil spirits were imprisoned in these places. In exchange for 100 years of safe and peaceful living, people used the ritual of burning the sky lantern to sacrifice the most brutal criminals. But the heroine had heard that it required 100 victims, and there were many more people here. Ye Yun assumed that it was definitely not clean downstairs, and perhaps there was a demon down there, and a large number of bloody sacrifices would hasten its awakening. The man could handle it with one hand, but he was worried about Luo Li, that even though she was the patriarch of the Divine Dragon sect, she would still have to sweat. Ye Yun told the girl that her disciple had become part of this ritual, but he was probably still alive. The heroine rejoiced at this news, but the man warned her that she would have to find a way to save him herself. Luo Li was terrified, although the girl's strength grew quickly, but she had no combat experience. But the man cheered her up. He promised that he would help her if necessary. Luo Li had already thought of a plan. Ye Yun was angry they were tied with ropes. The girl smiled awkwardly. The heroine asked him to relax. After all, she had led others around by the nose like this before, and it always worked. They got in line with the prisoners who were heading toward the boiling water. When it was their turn, the girl stood close to the edge. Looking at the red water, she didn't see her apprentice. The disciple had been arrested over 10 days ago, so the man, also looking out for a person in the water, wanted to assume something, but the guards behind them pushed them into the water. Ye Yun plunged into the water. He destroyed the ropes from his body and immediately noticed the demon at the bottom. He wanted to already break his seal, but he was called out by Luo Li. The girl shouted that she had found her apprentice. The white-haired man looked in her direction. The heroine was yelling for her brother to wake up. She sadly remarked that he was dying. But the master came out of the water, bringing his disciple to the surface with him, and said that as long as he was breathing, they had a chance. Ye Yun shoved a pill into the guy's mouth. Golden lines of magic immediately began to form around him. The man pulling the disciple out said that they would lift him up first and then deal with the rest. The unknown man stood near the table. Green waves of magic were coming from his hands. In a moment of sorcery, he looked at the water. A light glow burst out of it with a bullet. The man shouted angrily, The sacrifice escaped. Luo Li and his brother and Ye Yun carried away from the water. They landed in front of the people wearing demonic masks. The boy was pleasantly surprised that his sister had come for him. The girl was serious and asked him to be quiet. While the master was treating him, she would deal with the others. The chief sorcerer ordered his men to grab them faster because the ritual was already starting to work. The masked men immediately got down to business. Shrouded in light magic, red swords flew at the guys, but the girl confidently threw them away with her sword. She was outraged. How could they use her sectmate to set the heavenly lantern on fire? The heroine sealed the sword in front of her into the stone. Purple lightning emitted from it. Ye Yun was proud of her. The girl was now like a patriarch. The chief sorcerer was surprised that the divine dragon sect was not destroyed. Luo Li angrily replied that she was the 298th patriarch and had come to avenge all her comrades. The sorcerer was unsurprised and said that he would sacrifice her and receive a reward for it. Ye Yun glared angrily at the sorcerer. He guessed that someone was behind the destruction of their sect. Golden magic flowed from the palm of the master's hand. He would have to turn this place upside down again, and he hoped that the ancestors would help him break the seal soon. His magic seeped through the stones into the water and reached the demon seal. The sect sorcerer noticed that the sacrifice had worked. Ye Yun, who was standing a little behind, ordered the girl to grab him and find out who was behind him. The girl hurriedly carried out the order. She rose into the air above the sorcerer. The man felt that she was on the Yuanhai realm and was no match for him after all. He was on the realm of a true god. Luo Li swung her sword and decided to test it. She struck. But the man managed to bounce away. The sword cracked where he stood. The sorcerer was shocked that she was able to crack with the sword. The man marveled at the power of the sword as it landed. He gloated that the girl didn't know how to use it, so she used chopping blows. He wanted to take the sword for himself. He turned to the girl and offered to teach her how to use the sword, but the girl replied that it was her sword, and she could do whatever she wanted with it. The sorcerer got angry and ran straight at the girl. He grabbed her shoulder and started to use force, but the man suddenly noticed that he couldn't grasp her clothes, and then a powerful sword blow landed on his face. He bounced far away from the heroine, lying face down on the cold stone. He realized that her clothes were also unusual. Luo Li pointed at him with her sword. She was outraged that a person on the true god realm had already been defeated twice. The sorcerer somehow started to get up. He himself didn't expect to lose to some girl. He made a scary face and said that the sacrifice had already taken place, so the devil would soon appear, and warned Luo Li that no matter what weapons she had, she would not be able to survive. The man suddenly ran abruptly, stopping right near the edge of the cliff. He began to call out to the devil. A bright green glow of magic emanated from him. The devil heard him, and the man began to rise up towards the sky. The sacrifices Ye Yun assumed were not to keep the peace, but to wake up the devil. Bubbles began to form in the water. Souls burst out of the bodies of the captives. They all flowed into one ball, gathering in the sky. Above the water, sharp lines of lightning headed into the water. A green glow reached the seal of the demon and surrounded it with magic. From it came the voice of the devil. He asked who woke him up. The sorcerer hovered above the water and was glad that the demon was awake after all. A black hand with long claws emerged from the bloody water. The white-haired man, looking at the huge monster, was not surprised that the devil was incarnated in a humanoid form. The devil turned to the sorcerer and asked him if he had woken him up. The man got worried but answered the question. The demon opened his mouth in a terrible smile, revealing terrible sharp teeth. He had been sleeping here for ages, and now he was hungry. The monster noticed that the sorcerer's spiritual power wasn't too good, but it would have a better effect for him than those offerings of his. The demon directed streams of his power at him. He hoped that the sorcerer would be glad of such an honor. But the man opened his eyes wide with fright and asked not to kill him. But the devil had already grabbed him and guided him to his mouth. Luo Li called out to the master to look at the devil who had devoured the sorcerer. Ye Yun asked her to keep her head down, or he might eat her too. But the heroine was indignant. The devil directed his gaze just at her. As the appetizer was finished, the demon decided that it was time for the hot meal. All the remaining people started to run away. The monster used his magic to lift them off the ground. He laughed at them and shouted that none of them would be able to escape from the hands of darkness. The flow of the devil's magic carried people straight into the black vortex that formed over the bloody water, the monster mocking them and laughing. A bright pink glow carried straight toward the demon. Luo Li was in it. She was able to get close to the devil's face. Ye Yun and her disciple stayed in the same place. The master was surprised when the girl managed to become so brave that she even dared to throw herself at the devil. The girl's disciple was excited. Luo Li was going to tackle the devil herself. The master noticed that the glow was coming from the heroine He recognized that the girl was doing quite well and was able to become bolder in a few days. The girl's brother was in a panic. He was going to help her because he was afraid Luo Li might have been eaten. Yeyun asked if the guy was sure he wanted to help her. The guy nodded confidently and boldly. Meanwhile, Luo Li was thrown out of the magical devil stream. The heroine slammed her back into the wall with all her might. The girl didn't give up. She pushed off the stone wall with her foot and was about to strike the demon some more. The monster was not happy. He asked her to stop hitting him with the stick. After all, she was preventing him from eating her. Luo Li didn't like the way he called her precious sword. Then the devil took a closer look and noticed that it wasn't just a stick, but a rare thing in the mortal world. He directed his magic at the weapon. Luo Li clung tightly to the sword and angrily screamed at him to give it back. The demon kept wanting to take the sword away from her and said that it was his now. But the girl wasn't going to just give it up. She put her foot forward, pushing the demon away from the weapon. Suddenly, the sword came out of its sheath and out came the golden dragon. The devil was surprised that her amazing thing was also with a dragon soul inside. He rejoiced at this, for with this golden dragon he could rise above life and death. The devil's magic shackled the golden dragon. The dragon was trapped by the demon, and the girl, almost crying, began to ask for help from the ancestors. The monster, mocking her, said that the thing had already recognized him as its master and promised that once it was done with the dragon, she would be next. Luo Li landed confusedly on the ground. She fell to her knees, reaching out her hand to her sword pitifully, calling out to her master for help. A blue glow split the air and headed straight for the demon. The girl thought it was the master, but it turned out to be her brother. Luo Li jumped to her feet excitedly. The guy came to the aid of his fearless sister. The devil didn't appreciate his appearance and regarded it as dangerous. To him, it was all a childish provocation. He aimed a shield at the guy. The brother stopped in front of the shield and began to threaten that if the devil tried to take away the valuable item of the patriarch of the divine dragon sect, he would destroy him. The monster knew about this sect and was surprised that after so long the head of the sect was a girl. He snidely suggested that the divine dragon didn't have a worthy successor. The boy, pointing the tip of his sword at the devil, shouted that he would kill him. A stream of magic erupted from his weapon and flew right past the demon's face. He noticed that it was also some kind of relic. The devil, holding the dragon in one hand, expressed his gratitude for such an offering. He took a deep breath of his magic and released a huge stream of it. But the attack passed by and didn't hurt the guy in any way. The brother landed on the ground and deflected the next blow with his sword. Then the devil launched another attack, and the guy was thrown back. The demon was about to end the fight, and a huge paw of the monster appeared above the brother. Luo Li called out to him in a panic. She decided to transfer some of her energy to him for a while. The girl had to subdue the golden dragon and save her friend. The devil was angry that they dared to go at him, so he covered the guy with his hand and crumpled it into a fist. But he was surprised to notice that he wasn't there. The guy was able to pull Luo Li out. The girl irritably asked him to be quiet because the demon was going to attack them again. Suddenly, another demon of the same kind appeared. They folded their hands with each other. Their magic met, forming a dense ball around themselves. The guys got out, and the girl was able to retrieve her golden dragon. The devil noticed this and directed a ball of his power at her. But Luo Li raised her sword above her and urged the golden dragon to show her power. The dragon rushed towards the demon angrily. They collided with each other. The devil was pushing, and the girl was holding back his power. The brother called out to his sister. Suddenly, a thin glow pierced the devil's orb. Luo Li came close to it. Deep sores appeared on the devil's arm. The master intervened in their fight, walking towards Luo Li, who landed on the ground. And the brother, he was impressed that the girl was able to withstand the Ghost King, who far surpassed her in strength. The devil, looking at the master, couldn't understand how this man was able to disperse his energy flow with a small flame. Things were going lousy for the demon. He felt that the unknown man did not belong to any kingdom, but he was worth fearing. So he decided to make a quick escape. The guy noticed that the monster was defiantly running away. Yeyun smiled and directed his energy at the monster. The master's huge blue hand hovered over the devil. The master grabbed it tightly. The devil trembled in fear and said that he was just a newborn demon and apologized if his actions offended the master. The man with a clenched fist said that his birth had no meaning to him, but the ritual of lighting the lantern had harmed a member of his sect, so he directed the pain of 10,000 deaths at the demon. The devil wheezed, then exploded under Yeyun's power. Luo Li was amazed that the ancestor was so strong that he finished off the demon with a single blow. The boy thanked the master for the treasure. The man replied to him that for a natural talent, he had no pity. Luo Li guessed that Yeyun had given the artifact to his brother, so he entered the battle with the Demon King, and his wounds healed before his eyes. The guy, scratching the back of his head awkwardly, told her that he had washed himself in the blood of dragons and not only healed, but was also able to reach the fourth realm of the creator god. The heroine was outraged that her brother had reached the creator god realm when she had only obtained the 10th level of the Yuan Hai realm. Also, the guy boasted that the master had given him royal level robes and a Hunyan realm sword. The girl resentfully replied that her sword was of divine level and was better than his. But the guy didn't want to compete with her. He understood that the patriarch of a divine sect should have the best of everything. He was just surprised that this sword was above his rank, so he couldn't even use a tenth of its power. The master told the guy that his talent was truly good. After all, he had only reached the fourth level of creator god by washing in blood. But the girl had a lot of work to do. Yeyun told them that the swords were limited in strength until their strength level allowed them to fully wield them. The guy displaying the sword in front of him understood everything. The demon had been defeated. Yun Moxiao had been found. So it was left for them to find Big Sister. Mo Shang said thoughtfully that their sister, Su Wan, had dared to draw the enemy's attention to herself and had since disappeared. But he was sure that the attack on their sect had been planned. Yeyun wondered if the guy knew anything else about it. Yun told him that he was taken to an audience with some person, but all he remembered was a blood-red door. The master became wary and seriously asked who it was. Yun said that he was with a bag over his head the whole conversation, but clearly remembered his robe. It had the symbol of the Izumo sword sect on it. Luoli knew that it was one of the 10 strongest sects of the Guyue dynasty. Their base was thousands of miles east of the Izumo Mountains. The heroine assumed that they were the ones who were chasing after them. Now the guys had a tip-off, so they decided to head over there and settle the score with this sect Sword Izumo. A huge stream of golden energy erupted from his hand. A black unicorn with golden eyes, wings, and a golden horn on its head materialized in front of them. The guys were thrilled that it was a divine-level demon. Suddenly, the unicorn greeted the master. Yun and Luo Li were in a huge shock that the horse was also talking. Yeyun asked the unicorn to be simpler so as not to scare people. After that, the horn on its head disappeared, the scales flew away, and the whole thing transformed into an ordinary horse. The unicorn asked the master not to worry. After all, the horn and mask were just a reminder not to mess with him, or else you could get back at him. Mo Sheng and Luoli immediately bowed their heads and apologized to him, the horse smiling with all its teeth. The master called out to them and said that the sooner they went out, the sooner they could find the sect elder sister. Charred pieces of flesh floated in the bloody water, and 2 people stood in front of the lake. They knew that this was the birthplace of the Order King. But they saw that something was wrong. The Ghost King had appeared, but not willingly. One of them knelt down and dipped his hand into the water. Their secret technique was capable of controlling the Ghost King, and here the man could feel signs of someone else's interference. An unpleasant hunch reached the red-haired man that someone had killed the Ghost King and all of their brethren. The man took out his hand, looking at the flowing red slurry, replied that Guyue dynasty was not capable of such a thing, so they decided to report it to the master. The black horse was rushing through the grassy forest. The boys were sitting in the carriage. Luo Li asked the master if he would take newcomers into the sect. The man, sipping his tea, replied that the time for this was not yet right, but the development of the sect was an inevitable part of its existence. But the girl's level was still too low, so no one would want to join a sect where the patriarch hadn't even reached the realm of creator god. But Luo Li reminded him that they had only met a couple days ago, and they had already managed to defeat the Ghost King. The master replied to her that the sooner she sowed the seeds of young novices, the sooner they would sprout and strengthen their sect. The heroine asked in astonishment that he was hinting them to gather supplies from those they had defeated. Yun, hearing their conversation, intervened. He looked out from behind the door and grudgingly asked the girl if she wanted the dragon blood heirs to engage in looting. Luo Li smacked him upside the head. She was fine with that, after all. If they could use something on the way, they couldn't miss the opportunity. The heroine agreed that the ancestor was right. On the way to becoming their sect, they should gather as many resources as possible. The girl told the guy that since he wasn't a patriarch, he couldn't understand such things. The guy brightened up and said he understood. They would burn, kill, and gather all the loot for the good of the sect. Luo Li yelled at him and urged him to look at the dynasties of the Kanan continent, for those who couldn't withstand the war had lost both the city and their own lands. The girl calmed down and warned Yun that the ancestor had reached the realm of the true god, so he was unlikely to stay with them for long, and so the sisters and brothers should raise the banner themselves. The boy asked Ye-Yun in surprise if Ye-Yun was telling the sister the truth. The man replied that he had talked about the upcoming plans with Luo Li, and she was sober about the sect's future. He took out two small divine-level pouches that Ye Yun had stored resources in. There was plenty of space in them, so now it was their turn to fill the pouches with the things they needed. Luo Li and Yun were delighted with the offering. The girl was the first to grab the sack and was very surprised at how much space there was. She asked the master how to fill it. Ye Yun said that the path of gathering had no end, so he asked them not to slack off and said that the future of the sect was not to be limited to one continent. The man talked about other parts of the earth that the guys didn't know about. He also said that the continent of Kwanan was a puddle in the ocean in all the lands of this world. The heroine was all glowing. She was already dreaming that when they captured all the scraps of land in the world, she would become the patriarch of a super huge sect. Ye Yun quickly slapped her. The girl fell to the floor in pain. He strictly told her that until she reached the realms above the divine realms, she would not see any other lands outside the continent. And also the master warned, Luo Li must overcome the creator god realm before they arrived in the lands of the Izumo sword sect. In the Izumo sword sect, Li Qingshan, the sect patriarch, ordered his assistant to report the news. The fellow reported that the patriarch of the divine dragon sect was asking for his audience at the mountain gate. But the patriarch said that he had never heard of such a thing. He thought they wanted to join them. So he asked the aide to say that he was out. The guy also said that the two of them were quite young, but their level had already reached the creator god realm. The man turned sharply towards the aide and asked in surprise if he was sure of this. The guy said that it wasn't just about age, but they were also dressed in high-level clothes. The patriarch demanded to take him to them. Luo Li had trained all the way to reach the creator god realm, and was now excitedly asking Yun if they could handle it. Master had told them to deal with the Izumo sword sect on their own. The boy trusted his sister patriarch, so he was willing to do whatever she told him. Yun noticed the patriarch's silhouette in the doorway. The man stepped closer to them, introduced himself, and asked where they were coming from. Luo Li introduced the two of them to the sect patriarch. Li Qingshan appraised the guys. They were still children, but had already reached the 4th level of the creator god realm. However, the man guessed that the girl had only recently possessed him. After all, there were no such nuggets in the Gu Yue dynasty. Li Qing assumed that their lord was sitting in the carriage, but he couldn't sense anything. Li Qingshan then asked them what they wanted from his sect. The heroine immediately told him that a month ago, someone from their sect had captured her brother and tried to sacrifice him for a ritual. Ye Yun, who was sitting in the carriage at this time, was impressed that the girl was starting to act like a leader. Li Qingshan replied that she probably misunderstood things, as her disciple had reached a high level and possessed high-level robes and weapons. There were few people in his sect who were capable of apprehending him except for the elders, in which case, Yun was serious about going in there and finding them. In his thoughts, the patriarch thought that the great school of immortals was most likely not lacking, but he couldn't dare to offend them with suspicion. The man smiled and replied that it was some misunderstanding, and his sect's elders were currently absent. He wanted to add something, but he was interrupted. A sparkle flashed from the sky, and a powerful stream of energy struck right between Li Qingshan and Luo Li. A man appeared in the sky, shrouded in magic. He grudgingly asked who was causing trouble for his sect. Li Qingshan graciously greeted his supreme leader. The elders also arrived with him, to which the patriarch was a little surprised. The supreme reprimanded the man for allowing strangers to make demands of him on the doorstep of his own home. The patriarch became nervous. The supreme shouted angrily at him, and pointing at Luo Li and Yun, demanded that he kill them. Ye Yun sat in the carriage and calmly sipped tea, thinking that the supreme didn't realize that the sect leader's strength might not be enough, but rather thought that it was a good warm-up for the guys. The heroine, looking at the old man, asked her brother if it was him. The guy replied that the voice was familiar. Yun got into a stance, ready to attack. The patriarch wanted to intervene, but a man ran past him sharply right at the guys. During their wandering, the ancestor had taught them the divine dragon sword technique, so Luo Li was determined to try it out. The elders rushed at them, but the guys directed a powerful stream of dragon energy at them, causing one of them to fly off to the side, leaving behind a trail of footprints. Their supreme was dissatisfied with his subordinates, so he decided to join the fight. The man jumped straight at the girl. Their energies clashed with each other. The girl put her sword forward, blocking the blow. From her sword came out a strong, blinding, golden stream of power. The supreme couldn't understand how a girl, who had just entered the realm of a creator god, could defeat an elder of the same level with a single blow. But when he saw her divine sword, everything immediately became clearer. The girl defiantly replied that a bad dancer's weapon was in the way, she was alone, and there was a whole crowd of elders piling on top of her. Luo Li, blocking the blow, noticed that the venerable sect didn't have good weapons, so it was clear that they had nothing but verbal attacks. The patriarch was watching their fight on the sidelines. He didn't understand what was going on there, but he guessed that since the Supreme wanted to kill them, it meant that the girl was right, and the sect had indeed stolen her brother. The sect, the Izumo sword sect, was barely in the top 10 strongest sects on the continent. But it was amazing that an 18-year-old girl had reached such heights of skill. The patriarch wondered in amazement what kind of rare artifacts she had. The man noticed the carriage and moved closer to it. The Supreme decided that he was getting a little crowded in here with her, so he decided to change scenery and flew up, leaving the perplexed girl below. She headed after him, Yun seeing his sister, and the man headed upstairs, followed them as well. The elders who remained downstairs looked at each other confusedly. They saw the carriage and ran to destroy it, lest those slink away from them. The patriarch wanted to stop them. Ye Yun, who was sitting in the carriage, decided that the elders knew how to bid farewell to their lives beautifully by attacking the demonic horse carriage. The master ordered the horse to fight back against the elders. The horse jumped up, struck with all its might, and cracks in the ground formed around it. The people were thrown back from such a force. Ye Yun directly from the carriage directed his energy at them. The stream went straight into the house. There was an explosion right next to the patriarch. He looked with frightened eyes at the rock that flew straight at him. Supreme noticed the powerful explosion below and immediately flew back to the sect. Luoli and Yun rushed after him. Supreme approached his sect, of which there was almost nothing left, and was in complete shock. The man noticed the patriarch lying senseless. He went down to him and angrily asked him what had happened. Li Qingshan was in tears and could only squeeze out that the sect no longer existed. The Supreme, casting an angry glance at the carriage, knew that their master was there. He rushed to the carriage, threatening. He approached the carriage, which was standing on the ruined road, and wanted to strike, but he was suddenly thrown back. The master, sipping tea inside, smirked. The Supreme couldn't even penetrate the outer layer of the shield. Looking at the carriage that was shrouded in a blue shield, he realized that the level of the person inside the carriage was much higher than him. The Supreme straightened up, looking up into the sky, thinking that the god himself wanted to destroy the Izumo sword sect. Dazzling white lightning sparked from his eyes. He decided that since he was destined to die, he would take everyone to the grave with him. The man's entire body began to spark with lightning magic, forming a tense ball of energy around him. Luoli and Yun worriedly noticed that he might explode now. A huge magical wizard hand loomed over the Supreme. The girl gloatingly noticed that Ye Yun was striking back. The master hand grabbed the tense ball of magic of the Supreme and squeezed hard into a fist. The man's soul emerged from under his fingers. He wanted to fly away, but Ye Yun grabbed him. Yun asked the master what happened after all. The sorcerer should have exploded. The man holding the Supreme's soul explained to them that the elder wanted to release his own soul energy, but escape in the form of this echo. Yun disappointedly remarked that they couldn't find out the reason for the attack on their sect. But Luoli told him not to worry because Ye Yun could interrogate the soul. The master started to read it. The soul opened its mouth and opened its eyes wide in horror. The guy, seeing the process, was ecstatic. The patriarch of the sect was sitting on his knees with his whole body trembling. The master hovered over him, raising his head. The man stared at him confusedly from bottom to top. Ye Yun asked him if there was a sword saint among them. According to the patriarch, it was Elder Juggernaut. Luoli held out his sword in front of him and demanded that he speak in detail, because the ancestor had no intention of waiting for his answer. Under the blade of the sword, the patriarch revealed that there was a certain saint in the sect's Chet, whose mastery of the sword was considered unrivaled to this day. Because of him, the sword sect had become the strongest among the rest. However, hundreds of years ago, the saint had attacked the divine bridge and had disappeared ever since. This story didn't help the master because the divine dragon sect had been attacked for 50 generations. It appeared that the Izumo sect was receiving orders from the sword sect, but who was behind it all was unknown to Ye Yun. Yun called out to the master and asked if their elder sister was being held captive by the divine sword sect. Ye Yun replied that an echo told him that someone from the divine sword sect had manipulated the Izumo sword elders to hunt them down for hundreds of years. But he had not learned anything about his sister. Luoli got angry and brought her sword close to the scared patriarch's throat. But Ye Yun told the girl that the man was only a suzerain and could not know about the plots of the higher elders. The heroine then asked what they would do with him. The master told her that, since she was the patriarch, it was up to her to decide what to do with the man. The girl was at a loss. The patriarch, with his whole body trembling even more, clamped his eyes shut in fear. Luo Li drilled him with a menacing glare for a few seconds, but still lowered her sword from his throat and said that he was lucky that she was in good spirits today. The man exhaled in relief, but that wasn't all. The heroine squatted down in front of him and offered to ransom his life with the treasure of his sect. The brother, glowing, was in agreement and shouted that they would take everything and the treasures and resources. But the patriarch excitedly said that since his sect had been destroyed, he had nothing to offer them. He only had his bag left, so he offered to take it if they wanted it. Luo Li defiantly grabbed the bag from the patriarch and replied that she would let him live for his sincerity, and ordered him to go and deliver a message to the Divine Sword Sect. She victoriously promised to visit sooner or later to even the score. The patriarch sat alone amidst the ruins of his sect, Yoon glancing at him and asking his sister why she let him leave. The girl sat in the carriage, looking at the pouch the man had given her, and replied that there was no need for him to die because he had been honest with her. The lad was surprised, but the heroine, with an important thumb up, said that since the ancestor had let him live, she too had decided that there was no point in killing him. Luo Li was enthusiastic after all. They were on the cusp of the sect's rebirth, so they should glorify mercy so that the new novices would know about them when they opened the mountain gate. The master, while sipping his tea, was smiling contentedly. Yun realized the fact that the girl had kept him alive, so that everyone would know that they were the ones who had defeated the Izumo sword sect. Brother was delighted with his sister, because she was becoming more and more competent as a leader every day. The heroine folded her arms on her chest and was incredulous at his words. But Ye Yun was in agreement with Yun. The truth was, he was disappointed that they hadn't learned anything new about the missing older sister. Luoli thoughtfully said that since the Izumo sword sect was subordinate to the divine sword sect, they should inquire about the elder sister from them. Master seriously replied that they didn't need to hurry on their way to the sect because the guys needed to strengthen their position in the realms. Lines of energy began to form around his hand, and he touched Luoli's head with his finger. Streams of his magic swirled around the heroine. The girl, examining her hands, excitedly asked what he had done. The man brought her back to the Ui High realm again. The heroine, picking up her dragon sword, which glowed with a bright blue light, was surprised to notice that it was not gold level, but earth level. The same thing happened to his brother, and he was very saddened by it. Ye Yun had told them that a true warrior shouldn't rely on outside objects, because in order for them to become excellent swordsmen, they must turn into weapons themselves. The man explained to them that their realm had been strengthened from outside, so the foundation of such strength could not be called solid. Before they reached the sect, must reach the creator god realm again on their own. Also, due to the fact that he had lowered their levels, each new realm reached would be more difficult than the previous one. Master, Luoli, and Yun reached the inn. As they sat and had dinner, the girl with pink hair was watching them. To her, the younger brother looked curious. The girl was a saint of the Acacia Jo Mengying sect. She felt that the guy had already reached the Ui High realm, so she thought he was the head of some family of miners or blacksmiths. And the other one, who seemed prettier to her, didn't feel the realm, so she thought he didn't have it. The woman behind the counter politely told the saint that if she liked any of the lodgers, she would gladly invite him to her table. But the girl rose from her seat, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, and said she could do it herself. In front of Luoli and Yoon stood a lot of all sorts of delicious food. The guys were excited, but didn't understand why the master ordered so much food. Ye Yoon, taking a bowl of rice, replied that he hadn't been in the world for 100,000 years, so while there was time, he wanted to indulge in small pleasures. Yun, taking pieces of meat with his chopsticks, happily said that he could be understood because all the food looked appetizing. Suddenly, a woman's hand laid on the boy's shoulder, and he heard a flirtatious voice above his ear asking why the younger brother was eating alone. She took a seat next to him, sweetly asking if he wanted to chat with the head of the slave family. Yoon spit out his food in surprise. The guy got a little embarrassed and stuttered a little, asking who she was, and warning him that he wasn't alone. Suddenly, someone's foot tapped Luo Li and the master's benches, causing them to fly away from the table a decent distance. Ye Yun and Luo Li were shocked. They were now sitting opposite each other without a table. Yun jumped up in astonishment and turned to the ancestor, but the pink-haired woman deftly sat on his lap. She fully sprawled on top of him and pretended as if she couldn't see any ancestor. The saintly one moved closer to his face and said coquettishly that he looked very cute. Luo Li sat there and still didn't understand what was going on. Ye Yun looked at them and replied that her brother was attracted to someone. The pink-haired girl, blushing slightly, asked if Yun wanted to be her companion in the Acacia sect. The guy was embarrassed. The master noticed that a little more, and this girl would eat him up, so he asked Luo Li if she wanted to mingle. The girl was angry, but she didn't understand why she should interfere. After all, they were fun to watch. Ye Yun, wiping his mouth with a napkin, replied that it wouldn't last long because her brother was immature. The pink-haired girl pouted at the guy and asked him not to be afraid of her. Yun pitifully called Luo Li to him for help. At the same moment, the tip of the heroine's sword was thrust into the pink-haired girl's face, asking the shameless one what she was allowing herself to do. The guy was embarrassed and glad that the girl came to his aid. He got out of the saint's grip and stood behind Luo Li. The pink-haired woman, pushing the tip of her sword away from her, said that the worthless girl from the first kingdom of Yuehai wanted to steal her man. The heroine irritably introduced herself and told the girl to know her place and demanded that she stop corrupting her student. The innkeeper in charge, upon hearing that Luo Li was the patriarch of the Divine Dragon sect, was excited. The pink-haired woman had never heard of this sect and was not surprised that their matriarch was a blonde. The woman leaned over to the pink-haired woman and told her that there was a rumor about the sect that destroyed the home of the Izumo sword sect. The saint frowned her eyebrows. A man appeared who was displeased that someone had the nerve to poke the Acacia sect saint with a stick. It was the deputy head of the Bloodcloth sect, Bai Yu Feng. The man with a fan in his hands looked at them with mocking eyes. The pink-haired woman immediately recognized who it was that had come. The man turned to her and replied that this was the first time he had seen the saint in such a bad mood. His gaze flickered to Luo Li, and he liked what he saw. The saint stepped closer to him and suggested that he should take the girl and she should take the guy. The man laughed. He knew she would offer him that because the girl liked smarmy guys. The pink-haired girl didn't really like what he said, so she resentfully said that if he didn't want to, she could do it herself. Then the man offered to make a bet, but the saint turned away from him. All this was happening right in front of the guys. Lo Li was beyond angry. She threw him out of the courtyard. The man carried the wall and landed in the street by the wall. The heroine walked out of the room. She was angry that they were looking at her younger brother, but even more angry that they dared to look at her. The innkeeper in charge and the saint stood bewildered looking at the girl. The pink-haired girl excitedly thought that it could have been her in his place. So it was good for her that the man drew up. The sect deputy scrambled up the wall to his feet and ordered his men to kill the girl. Everyone rushed towards Luo Li in a flash. The head of the courtyard asked the saint if they would join. The pink-haired girl wasn't going to join just yet. She decided to watch to see the power level of the guys. She couldn't believe that a couple from the Yuehai realm were able to destroy the entire Izumo sword sect. The bandits were bearing down directly on Luo Li, but Yun jumped out to his sister's rescue and asked her to leave them to him to practice as his ancestor wanted. But the girl stubbornly shouted that she needed training too. Yun had already swung at the enemies and threw back one of them with his sword. The deputy, seeing one of his guys being thrown back, aimed rocks at the guy with magic. The guy grinned and dodged all the attacks and swung at the man, who put his hands forward to block the blow. Luo Li praised her younger brother. The girl looked at her sword, wondering if she had the strength to break the seal on her sword. She looked questioningly at the saint and the woman. The pink-haired woman fearfully bounced off the table, which Luo Li pointed the weapon's lightning bolts at. The girl grinned gloatingly and offered to give the saint a fight. The saint nervously flew out of the inn and headed straight for the fighting Bai Yu Feng and Yun. She shouted that Luo Li was threatening her, so she asked the deputy to change so she wouldn't kill her. Bai Yu Feng looked at her perplexed. Luo Li flew behind the pink-haired woman from behind and threatened to make a chop out of her. But the saint sharply pushed the deputy forward and offered to deal with him. Bai Yu Feng looked at the approaching heroine confusedly. The girl liked such a substitute. She happily agreed and hit the deputy with all her might. He flew off and his face met the ground. The saint clung to Yun and shouted frightened Luo Li was very fierce. The guy was embarrassed. He nervously asked what she was doing since they were enemies and asked him to let go. The pink-haired girl, blushing, told him that she was giving up. The girl didn't want to fight, so he would have to take her without a fight. Yun, blushing, remained silent, but then, covering his eyes, admitted that he couldn't do that and called his sister for help again. The saint liked his immaturity. While she was admiring him, she didn't notice Luo Li approaching her with a sword and hit her hard on the face. The girl flew face down from such a blow. The heroine stood before her belligerently, angered that this was the first time she had heard such a shameless request from the lady's mouth. The saint, holding her bruised cheek, screamed, "How dare she slap her face!" She frantically pounced on Luo Li with her sharp claws. But no sooner had she thrown a punch than the pink-haired girl was thrown back against the wall. Bai Yu Feng sat beside the wall. He didn't understand how they, from the height of the 7th level Yuehai, could lose to a pair from the 4th level. The deputy jumped up angrily. He was shocked that he had been beaten so brutally that he could no longer continue in the second round. Saint asked him if he had heard about the recent extermination of the Izumo sword sect. The man had heard. and a hunch struck him. Wide-eyed, he looked at the girl. The saint admitted to him that she too at first couldn't believe how such a minnow could do it. But now she had no doubt that it was them. Luoli approached Bai Yufeng and the saint. She pointed her sword, and the man was struck with pain. The deputy twitched deathly and fell face down with no signs of life. The saint screamed fearfully. Luoli wiped her sword from the blood, saying that the man's sect wanted to sacrifice her brother, but she was lucky to be able to save him in time. The girl didn't know how the pink-haired woman felt about the blood-robed sect, so she decided to give the girl two options. The first option was that she was going to destroy her sect for disrespecting the divine dragon. The saint, upon hearing the first option, jumped up fearfully and hurriedly shouted that she was choosing the second option. Luoli then grinned gloatingly and warned that everything was in her hands, and also said that they had lost a lot. The pink-haired girl didn't understand. Then the heroine grabbed Yoon by her blouse and angrily told her to see what she did to her brother. The guy was an innocent and pure young man, distracted from the world, and because of her, he would now be afraid of women. Luoli was worried that the guy would now not get a wife, etc. After all, he was the younger brother of the sect. Now the girl didn't know how she would pass the title of head to him in the future. Everyone was shocked. The saint apologized and handed over her pouch as compensation. Luoli gladly accepted the apology. But the girl looked into the pouch and was dissatisfied that there was spirit level, earth level, and not a single imperial level item. The pink-haired girl, crying, told the girl that there was nothing of imperial level or higher to be found in the entire continent because there were only legends about such things and no one had ever seen them in person. Luoli replied to this that it was nonsense and decided to prove to the girl that it wasn't true. In the Divine Sword Sect, the warriors stood and congratulated their senior swordsman on his return. A formidable-looking man came out to his soldiers. He said that he had heard the unfortunate news that Zasim had shown up early. The patriarch of the Izumo sect was sitting on his knees in front of him, so he demanded him to immediately tell him what happened. The man sat in the throne. The patriarch told him everything, and he answered him that if what he said was true, there were two young nuggets headed towards them, eager for revenge. The chief knew that the divine dragon sect had long lost its influence, so this pair was all that was left of it. The two men were sitting and talking amongst themselves. They didn't rule out that they were masters from other continents who had come to them in search of experience. The main man raised his hand and promised that the divine sword sect was ready to offer protection to the rest of the Gu Yue dynasty. He rose from his seat and displayed his abilities. The man's skills had reached unprecedented heights, so he was confident that the divine sword sect would stand up to the two. The unknown swordman approached the guys and asked to make one of them tea. The guy pouring the tea for the gentleman asked him if he knew where the lightning-fast one's sword assassin Hanzo was right now. The man abruptly pulled his sword out of its sheath, pointed the blade right at the guy's throat, and rudely asked who he was. The guy pulled back the blade, took off his hat, revealing his large scar on his head, and cheerfully said that he was Heavenly Wind Zhou Feng. Hanzo recognized him and hid his sword. He was surprised how Zhou Feng ended up in this backwater. The man felt that Zhou had overcome the 8th level of Yuehai, so he asked why he became a waiter. Zhou Feng replied that it was a long story. It was also strange for him to see a divine sword sect member in the ranks. The man got excited and nervously asked his acquaintance if he was definitely just selling tea here. Zhou Feng told his buddy that the sect they were unfamiliar with had destroyed the Izumo sword sect and killed the deputy, and now it was their Green Lotus sect's turn. Hanzo thought that they had already destroyed his sect, but the man replied that if that was the case, he wouldn't be sitting here anymore. He said that their master had gone out to fight one-on-one with their fighter and lost after 2 strikes, and in addition, lost everything he had gained. Hanzo was suddenly struck, and he hurriedly asked if he was talking about the boy and girl traveling on the wagon. Zhou Feng had told the rumors that this divine dragon sect wanted to challenge all the sects of the Gu Yue dynasty. Here Hanzo honestly admitted that their villa, the Tibetan swords, were also attacked, and most of the ancestral swords were taken away as payment for their lives. Zhao was surprised that the guys were able to reach the Tibetan sword villa as well, so it was going to be a long time before they reached the divine sword sect. A man who was sitting at another table suddenly raised his voice. He told Zhou Feng that the man was right. He said that the divine sword sect had been chasing the divine dragon for several generations, but no one could think that their patriarch, Luo Li, who was thought to be dead, would save her brother and destroy the Izumo sword sect, and also told the men that there was no dust left of the sect's city. They spared the head alone to deliver the news to the divine sword sect. Zhou Feng excitedly asked who he was. The man's name was Li Donghai. He was one of the survivors of the East Sea sect. Another guy from another table rose up following him. His name was Feng Wan. He was the leader of Feng Wan's gang. They had also lost to the Divine Dragon. All the men came up next to them. They were all defeated by the Divine Dragon sect. One of the men said that they were ruthless. Another admitted that they surrendered as soon as they saw their carriage. Li Donghai suggested that only the Izumo sword sect had been wiped out, and they had decided to let the others live. The man asked why they were all here. Zhou Feng replied that he had heard that the old swordsman had returned, but he was no longer involved in these matters. But he didn't mind seeing the sects fight. Hanzo noticed with a smile that everyone present didn't mind looking at the battle. Li Donghai hoped that the Divine Dragon sect would be able to defeat the Divine Sword, the Snake. The old swordsman was already over 100 years old. Suddenly, the men noticed that ill-fated carriage was approaching them. Everyone already knew that it was the Divine Dragon sect's carriage. Ye-yun sat relaxedly. He had warned the girl that the future of the Divine Dragon sect depended on the outcome of today. The girl indignantly asked what he meant by that. The man told her that she would understand once she looked outside. Luo Li looked out and saw her brother in front of her, who was already reaching out to help her get out. In the distance, she noticed a crowd of men. Yun and Luo Li were walking along the road. On either side of them were a large number of people watching them. The girl excitedly asked her brother why there were so many people here. The guy said that they were all members of the sects they had defeated. They had come to watch the battle with the Divine Sword sect. Yun was happy that the fame of their sect was spreading. He happily gave a thumbs up. Luo Li irritably asked him not to drop drool. If suddenly their leader was a woman, Yun immediately became embarrassed and shouted that it was only once. The Divine Sword sect was already waiting for them. Everyone took their positions, ready to fight. Luo Li and Yun walked up the steps. Only the clacking of the heroine's heels could be heard in silence. One of the warriors noticed the guys and excitedly demanded to immediately report that the Divine Dragon sect had already arrived. The chief and his assistants were sitting in the hall. They were happy that the guys had finally arrived and decided that those would taste their 7-star formation for starters. They had 300 fighters of the Ui High Realm who were capable of defeating countless enemies. They were confident that even if a strong man from the Divine Bridge Realm showed up on their doorstep, he would suffer greatly from a fight with their warriors. The sect fighters surrounded Luo Li and Yun. They stood back to back. The girl cheerfully said that they were famous because so many fighters came out to meet them. But that was what they wanted. Yun said it was even better, because they could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. First all the guards, and then the old swordsman. One of the warriors pointed a formation of 7 stars at them and activated it. Yun, seeing it, recognized that it was powerful, but he wasn't about to let them complete the formation. The boy rushed towards the sorcerer, the girl indignantly saying that at this rate, she would never catch up to him in swordsmanship. Yun laughed merrily as he approached the fighter. He couldn't help it when he saw so many enemies. The fight began. Powerful lightning bolts of energy emanated from where they fought. All the men watched the best novices of the Divine Sword against the 2 nuggets. The carriage stood in the distance, and no one paid any attention to it. Ye Yun was able to observe the battle with magic. He recognized that it was smart of Mo Xiao not to let them complete the formation. Now they could quietly improve their swordsmanship. To this day, the couple's progress was limited by the seal so that they gained more experience. But the master didn't expect most sects to surrender without resistance, and this battle should be the culmination of their skills. The patriarch of the destroyed sword sect, Izumo, excitedly turned to the master. He felt bad that their men were fighting there and the swordsman was sitting there doing nothing. The swordsman replied that there was no need. After all, the disciples were strong enough to handle it. But otherwise, he was personally going to deal with them. One of the aides told the patriarch not to worry about this fleeting battle, because any novice could kill another sect elder in an instant, and now there were 300 of them, so they were sure that the couple's fate was sealed. They were sure that there was no need for their senior swordsman to enter the battle personally. But suddenly, one of the fighters flew into their room. It fell right on top of one of their aides, the swordsman staring at them in shock. Luo Li and Mo Xiang had defeated their disciples, and now came to them. The girl ignored the surprised looks of the sectarians and happily informed her brother that she had elevated 3 levels in this fight. Her brother had also leveled up. The girl insolently demanded to give them the swordsman, or threatened to have them all wasted indiscriminately. The swordsman was furious. He was furious that she dared to humiliate his sword sect like this. But the girl boldly replied that he himself had been doing this for the past few generations, secretly daring to eliminate the members of her sect. So today, Luo Li decided to finish him off. The swordsman roughly began to threaten and said that he had been given orders to torment their sect for 300 years. But today, he had no intention of holding back. Suddenly, golden rays headed towards the building. The master decided to temporarily break Luoli and Moxiang's seal and demanded to fight at full strength, promising to engage in battle if necessary. The man, accumulating energy around him, mockingly felt that their potential was limited. He was a 6th-level realm divine bridge realm, so he wasn't worried. The swordsman lunged at the girl, but her brother covered her and took the entire blow, blood flowing from his lip. The heroine excitedly asked if he was in one piece. Yun, wiping his mouth with his sleeve, earnestly asked her to be careful with him. His aides were thrilled with their head, who was able to wound them with the first strike. They cheered for their patriarch. The swordsman himself struck the youngster at half strength. A full-fledged blow would hardly kill him, but would definitely cripple him. Suddenly, their gazes with Luo Li crossed. Yun panicked and told his sister to use the 9-dragon transformation movement technique. The man attacked her with a powerful stream of energy. Luo Li did as her brother asked, and she bifurcated, evading the blow. The master, who was watching the fight in the carriage, praised the girl for using the inertia from dodging. The swordsman didn't appreciate her focus much because it wouldn't be enough to dodge all of his blows. The man pushed back and swooped at the girl. Luo Li also ran towards him. Their energies clashed, and suddenly, only one heroine was left in the sky. Everyone watched in shock. The girl looked around in surprise. She exhaled in relief and recognized that it was close. Yun was on the ground, fending off numerous blows, but one he missed, and his arm was slashed by a stream of energy. The sectarians laughed. This was the power of the oldest swordsman. With one strike, he let out multiple sword marks, and no matter how agile he was, it was impossible to dodge all of them. Blood was flowing from the guy's wound. The swordsman's technique completely limited the transformation of the 9 dragons, so the guy had to find another way to dodge. The swordsman was surprised when he noticed the emperor-level robes on the guy. He wondered how they had such powerful artifacts. The man was insanely happy. He had been practicing sword-wielding all his life, and here he was, being brought an equipment of unprecedented power on a platter. He jumped on Yun and wanted to take the weapon. The guy put his sword forward in panic. Ye Yun saw that the fight was not easy for the guys. The patriarch of the strongest sect in the continent was bound to have outstanding skills. Also, the master understood that they had spent generations gathering resources throughout the realm. His disciples were experienced, but had yet to face the threat of death. Therefore, he was curious to see how the boys would behave in a fight with a man who had been tested by many years of battle. Ye Yun was in anticipation and was really looking forward to the outcome. The swordsman had already prepared for the next strike, but the guy no longer had the strength to fight. Unexpectedly, Luo Li came to his aid. She pointed her sword at the man. He looked at her and threw a stream of energy. The girl confusedly started to dodge. Mo Xiang was angry. He couldn't believe that they would lose, so he angrily struck the swordsman. The man concentrated a stream of magic in his palm and hit Mo Xiang's face with all his might. Luo Li frightenedly called out to her brother. The guy withdrew and said that he was fine. He managed to wound him, but he admitted that he didn't have the strength for more. The swordsman looked up above them and said they could leave him their weapons and then maybe he would spare them. Luo Li wasn't going to give up so easily and lunged forward with her sword. The man angrily said that in the deal, he was allowed to keep them alive for another 100 years. But now, he wasn't going to spare them. The swordsman directed sharp streams of magic at them, Yun displaying his sword and angrily ordered his sister to attack, while he took the full brunt of it. The girl furiously rushed straight at the man, the swordsman, all glowing when he saw the full power of the rare artifact. The girl's energy threw a huge power at the man. The swordsman was struck by a cluster of bright pink magic. He screamed violently. The guy slumped to the ground and asked his sister if she had gotten him. Luo Li, holding the electrified sword in her hand, confidently said that this was not the end. From all sides, the sharp, bright blue swords of the swordsman headed towards them. He rose above them and shouted that he would take the swords from their corpses. Ye Yun angrily shifted his eyebrows to the bridge of his nose. The men who had come to watch the fight ran away because they were afraid that the sword marks would cover the entire mountain. As they ran past the carriage, one of them noticed the master. He was standing on the roof of the carriage, surrounded by gold and white lines of lightning. The men stared at him in shock. The swordsman went wild, a huge number of light blue swords swirling around him. The master, who stood in the distance, directed his energy at him, the swords colliding with the golden glow of him, shattering into small pieces. The men were protected by this golden shroud of magic. They immediately guessed that the man on the carriage had done it. When they looked at the carriage again, they were surprised to notice that he was no longer there. Meanwhile, the swordsman was beyond angry. He couldn't believe that his attack had been completely blocked. He asked in a rage who was capable of such a thing. The boys shouted with one voice that it was their ancestor who had come to the rescue, and only then did the man notice the white-haired man in front of him. He looked at him perplexed. The swordsman didn't sense his realm, but the next thought struck him. He guessed that Ye Yun's level was higher than his. The man decided to quickly run away, because if you can't sense your opponent's strength, the fight is knowingly lost. So he quickly rushed away, but the master wasn't going to just let him go, so he directed energy at him. In front of the man appeared huge rectangular walls, which did not allow him to pass further. When he turned back, he noticed that he was imprisoned in one of the squares. The swordsman was hitting the wall and screaming who he was. He didn't understand why he had imprisoned him. After all, they had no enmity. A furious Luo Li answered for the master. She told him that he had been persecuting the sect for centuries, and now he had decided to quickly change his shoes. The heroine herself introduced her master. He was the 13th patriarch of the Divine Dragon sect. Gloatingly told him that death by his hand was a great honor for someone like him. The men who heard how old Ye Yun was were surprised at how old he was. Another asked what realm he belonged to because he couldn't sense it. The master asked the swordsman who was behind the attacks on his descendants. The man's whole body shuddered and exploded and turned into a magical bright red cluster of energy. The protective square in which he was encased became even smaller in size and rolled down the steps. The swordsman refused to speak even in the face of the greatest ancestor, but Luo Li didn't feel bad because they would still learn information from his spirit. The warriors silently surrounded them. The girl turned to them and ordered them to lay out all their valuable possessions and then disperse to their homes, and threateningly announced that from this day onwards, there was no more divine sword sect on the Kanan continent. Various valuable items flew, and the guys left on their carriage away from this place. Luo Li was glad that they had dealt with everything because she was very tired after such a battle. Remembering about the swordsman, she asked her ancestor if he had found out who was behind the attacks. The man glumly replied that it was the Sacred Balance sect from the Holy Wind dynasty. Luo Li was surprised. After all, it was a completely different dynasty. The guy was driving the cart. He strained his hearing to the maximum to hear the conversation between the master and Luo Li. Ye Yun shifted his eyebrows with a frown. He said that even this sect were puppets of someone higher up. He assumed that there was a heaven-level sect at the head of this conspiracy, no less. Luo Li, clutching her head, didn't understand what the heaven-level sect needed from their sect. They could have provoked them. Ye Yun, bringing his cup to his lips, replied that this question should be asked to the patriarchs of the time when the persecution started, and warned that it would be difficult to find the ends of this daredevil. The heroine remembered her older sister and asked the master if he had come across her trail in the swordsman's memory. The man replied that the girl was in the Valley of White Mist, but there the bloodhounds of the Divine Sword Sect had lost her. Luo Li was glad that their elder sister was at least not in captivity. Ye Yun was also satisfied, and said that they were heading to that valley. The man directed magic to the horse, and it rushed even faster down the road. The wagon was driving in the forest. The guy driving the wagon said that the place was scary. You couldn't see further than a couple of meters, even with spiritual eyes. Luo Li looked out to Yun and said that it had been 3 months, so the sister could have long gone from there. The girl asked the ancestor if he could find her. The master replied that when they drove further into the valley, they would start searching. The boys stopped, and Luo Li and his brother went in search. They came to a lake on which a blue lily was floating. The heroine, looking at the water, admitted that she did not expect to meet such a place here. Suddenly, the girl saw an animal licking its paws on a rock. It was a black cat. She asked them threateningly if they were afraid of being lost forever in the mists here. It advised them to return while they still remembered the way. Suddenly, the cat's eyes went wide with confusion. Luo Li suddenly grabbed the cat by the scruff of the neck. The cat was unhappy with this treatment of him. The girl mockingly showed the cat's horse. After all, he was also talking. The cat was outraged by such a comparison. He let out his claws and scratched the girl, the heroine Aiknu. But the cat did not let go. The cat was surprised to see that in the veins of the girl flows the blood of dragons. The kitty was suddenly angry at the horse. It glared angrily at him with its eyes. The horse tapped him with his hoof, and the cat jumped to the ground. The kitty was surprised to notice that his spirit was stronger than his master. The cat kneeled down and folded his hands in front of him and began begging for forgiveness from the horse. Suddenly, the master asked the cat if he was protecting the lotus. It didn't escape Ye Yun that the cat knew about the dragon race, meaning he had already encountered their kin, so the master asked him where exactly he had seen them. The cat snickered, noticing that the man in front of him was even stronger. The horse hurried him along, tapping him on the head with a hoof. The cat, good-naturedly folding his paws, replied that he had seen a little girl that his master had given to the farming dynasty as an apprentice. Luo Li excitedly knelt down on his lap and asked who was the patriarch of this dynasty and how much property they had. The cat replied that his master was the great gatherer of the heavenly life realms, the suzerain of the 10,000 beasts sect, and he was ordered to guard the lotus. The horse didn't like the cat calling the man of the realms of paradise life great in front of his master. He pushed the kitty, and the kitty fell into the water. The poor kitty climbed out of the water and leaned on the lily pad with his paws, sweetly saying that he was just a talking cat, and asked to be treated accordingly. Ye Yun asked Luo Li and Mo Sheng if they wanted to meet their sister. The guys unanimously said they did. In the 10,000 Beasts sect, some guy was laughing and pointing his finger, saying that the girl's realm level was absurdly low. The girl stood timidly, surrounded by guys who were laughing at her. One of them stood with a leopard, putting his hand on its smooth fur, said that if she could handle his leopard, he would let her go. The guy roughly put his hand on her head. The girl irritably asked him to stop. Shenbao loomed over her threateningly, asking what would happen then, and wondered if she wanted him to tell the master that she wanted to marry him. Suddenly, a blinding energy leapt and landed between them. A voice in the sky asking if the guy was worthy of marrying a divine dragon apprentice. The girl was surprised to hear her sect. One of the guys boldly asked the sky who dared to cross the path of the 10,000 Beasts sect. A black something was approaching the girl, telling her that they would leave them alive for now, just so that she could get even with them. The door, which was like the universe itself was in, beckoned the girl to come inside, the older sister thanking her and stepping inside. The guys were shocked. Just then they saw a rift in the matter. When the girl stepped on the ground, Luo Li immediately jumped up to her. She tightly enclosed her in a hug. The girl was happy to see her big sister alive. Mo Shang wept tears, wiping her tears, asking how she felt. The older sister couldn't believe her eyes. The cat who was watching them was trembling fearfully. He was shocked that the master had broken the space, so he didn't understand what level he could be. Luo Li took her sister's hands and told her that an ancestor had saved her from the sect. The girl looked at her perplexed. The heroine introduced the master. The man asked Su Wanyi how she was feeling. Teardrops gathered in the corners of Su Wanyi's eyes. The girl abruptly knelt down on her knees. With her face on the ground and folded her arms, she greeted the master. Yeyun asked her to get up. The man gathered them all and said that they sect disciples were now together again. Luo Li hoped that she and her sister would never be separated again. Su Wanyi smiled. She also didn't want to be separated from them anymore. A flask appeared from the man's hand with magic. It was the blood of a primordial dragon. Their cultivation was too weak right now, but the blood should fix that. Kotick got all glowing when he heard about the legendary blood of the primordial dragon. He would like to try it too. The horse glared at him angrily. He kicked the cat hard again and told him not to even think about it. The cat sadly replied that he wouldn't even dare to dream about it. Su Wanyi took the bottle in her hands. Luo Li told her to sip a little, then quickly improve her skills with their sex technique. The girl let a white glow burst out from the flask into her mouth. She immediately began to burst through the levels. Kotick turned to the horse, calling him Brother Ma. He was amazed that the dragon blood was so strong and asked if it was true that one sip was enough for the cultivation base to start growing so fast. The horse replied that a person must have dragon blood flowing in them, and they had only experienced such a drastic leap once before, when the blood of a primordial replaced ordinary blood. Luo Li happily remarked that her sister had swung from the 33rd level of the inner core world to the 51st level of the divine creation world. Su Wanyi excitedly examined her hands. Next, the man gave her the 7 stars water dragon sword and the robe to begin with. The girl was shocked that the master gave her a royal robe and a divine level sword. The kitty, waving her paw unhappily, asked the horse if their master always gave out such gifts. The horse sternly replied that there was no way his master would allow his apprentices to use cheap equipment. The cat also wished his master was as rich. The cat affectionately asked the master if they needed divine beasts and offered himself. He could guard the gate and knew how to make tea. The cat said that he had the blood of a 9-tailed color cat flowing in him. He was one of the 10 powerful divine beasts. But it took him forever to grow a 3rd tail. His current master couldn't afford to develop it further. The cat petted against his ancestor's legs. The horse answered for the master. He said that the master had no shortage of beasts like him. Luo Li happily asked Yeyun if he had many divine beasts. The man replied that he had planned to give them 1 each to begin with. But then he had a feeling that it was too early because it might affect their cultivation. Su Wan said that the seal had been very kind to her and had even saved her, so she asked to let him stay in the divine dragon sect. Yeyun looked at the cat and thought that, although he was weak, but at least he wouldn't be boring. So he said that Luo Li was the head of the sect, not him, so she should decide. The cat bowed to the girl and asked her to let him stay. Luoli replied that since he had helped her sister, he could go with them. The cat meowed and threw himself at the girl's feet. He thanked her and promised that he would do his best for the good of the sect. The master turned to everyone and said that they were done here, so it was time for them to leave for the Divine Wind Dynasty. As there were more of them, Yayun opened a secret subspace in the carriage and promised that they would learn how to do it themselves later. Everything around them lit up with a bright blue light. They arrived at the place where the master had decided to arrange the training. The guys had to reach the 61st level of the Divine Bridge World. And with Suwanyi, Yeyun had to focus on learning the techniques of the Divine Dragon Sect. Cody was lying on the horse's head. He kindly offered to help navigate. The horse agreed. After a few days, they reached the Divine Wind Dynasty. In front of the old man stood a man. His name was Xing Ying Hao. He was the head of Silver Moon City. The white-haired man's name was Luo. He was an elder from the Divine Sword Sect. Luo asked Xing Ying Hao how the preparations for the Sanyuan meeting were going. The red-haired man said that the selection had already started. The official part of the competition should have started 3 days ago. The old man was pleased. This competition was important to his sect. He needed to select worthy disciples. Luo promised that if Xing organized everything well, he would take his son to join him. There were many people crowded around the building. Among them was Shu Wanyi. A kitty cat was sitting on her shoulder. She was asking him, why did the master limit her strength and asked her to participate in the competition? Chernish replied that the sect head and her brother were now training the 61st level, so her level was the lowest, directed by her ancestor for her to gain battle experience. Yeyun told her that he was also sealing Luoli and sibling so that the experience they gained would help in further cultivation, so she would have to try her best as well. Kodak asked what they were expecting then, after all. He was responsible for her safety, so he assured the girl that nothing would happen to her. Suwanyi longed to level up quickly. The young men approached the man at the table to sign up for the competition. One of the guys, awkwardly scratching the back of his head, said his name was Gao Ming. The man directed him to a seat and asked him to start the test. Gao seriously pulled out his sword from its sheath and slammed it into the stone in front of him. Suddenly, a girl walked up to Suwanyi. It was a blonde girl dressed in pink. She asked the girl if she too had come to participate in the Sanyuan Martial Arts Festival. The blonde girl's name was Lu Dei. She had recently reached the 2nd level of SeaWorld Yuan. The girl noticed a cat on Suwanyi's shoulder and asked if she could pet it. The girl, and even more so Xiaohei, didn't like that Lu Dei was treating the 9-tailed cat like a mere animal. Suwanyi said that the cat did not like strangers. Lu Dei was not offended. She asked the girl if she came here alone. The girl awkwardly replied that she had only recently come here, so she knew very little about the martial arts festival. It was not a big deal for Lu Dei. She was here for the 2nd time, so she offered to contact her with any questions. Suwanyi thanked her. The girl said that this was a 3-tiered martial arts competition. Anyone under 20 years old and having cultivation at the SeaWorld UN level could participate. The competition was held in 3 categories: people with heavenly yuan, people with earthly yuan, and people with human yuan. The winners receive awards, and the best one is invited to become a disciple by the strongest sect. The man called out the next candidate. The sect had a special measure. They could use it to determine the inner strength of a participant. If a golden light appeared when it was struck, it meant that the person had heavenly yuan. If it was red earthly, white human. Suwan frowned, thinking that she should target the heavenly level. The man asked the girl's name, she said it, and then walked over to the stone. Suwanyi glumly examined it. And then she put her hand on it with all her might. The stone immediately lit up with golden light. Lu Dei was surprised. The girl was already the 10th participant with heavenly yuan. A man with a tray brought her the talisman and told her to keep it until the end of the festival. The man was watching the participants from the balcony. He could sense that the girl only had a yuan of the 1st level, and she was already able to generate golden light. Her talent was beyond ordinary. The red-haired man stood beside him. He congratulated Elder Luo, after all. This time they had 10 people with heavenly yuan, which meant that he could take a few disciples. In his heart, Xing Yinghao was not happy about this because his son's position was jeopardized. So he wanted to do something about it. The day of battles came. Suwanyi was standing in front of the guy, preparing for battle. Lu Dei was holding a disgruntled Xiaohei. She happily greeted her new friend. The guy in front of her asked her to tell him when she was ready. The girl grabbed her sword and started the fight. The partner in the fight pounced on her, but Suwanyi was able to throw him away with one blow. He flew into the wall. The people who were standing there ran away in fear. In this battle, Suwanyi's Shu Wanyi was victorious. Elder Luo was watching the battle scene from his seat. He was delighted with the girl. The old man thought that she had strong blood because otherwise, he didn't know why she was able to defeat Bai Yuanshan, who had the 4th level of the Sea World, with a single blow. Xing Yinghao, who was sitting next to him and smiling kindly at the old man, made a fearful face. He wasn't happy that the guy had lost so quickly. He decided that if the next battle went this way, he would have to do something about it. Heavenly Yuan's second battle was announced. Su Wanyi versus Dongfang Yu. Su Wanyi was dissatisfied why she had to fight again. Suddenly, the next opponent squatted down in front of her. The guy was very confident. The girl asked if he had had enough and suggested to start the fight. Su Wanyi pointed his sword at him and said that since he attacked her with an attack of 24 lunges, she would respond in the same way. The girl angrily stabbed her opponent's arm through. The guy was struck by a huge amount of magic swords, and he fell senseless, covered in blood. Su Wanyi was victorious. The other participants were stunned into silence. Night had already fallen, and the girl was still fighting with the contestants. She had already won the 9th battle. The girl was out of breath. Xing Yinghao thought doomfully that she would gain a lot of experience in these battles. Elder Luo was delighted with her. He asked the girl if she was willing to become a disciple in his heavenly sword sect. The girl angrily frowned when she heard about this sect. The man unsuspectingly replied that his sect was one of the 3 strongest sects of the Shenfeng dynasty. The man smugly said that talent and strong cultivation were required to join his sect. But for the sake of the girl, he could make an exception. All the participants were shocked. This was the first time they had seen a sect elder offer someone to become his disciple, after all. Even the nobles were not treated like this by him. Lu Dei was also stunned. She didn't realize how cool Sister Su Wanyi was. The girl slammed her sword into the scabbard, turning away from him, saying that she wasn't interested because she was already a disciple of the Divine Dragon sect. Everyone watched as the girl left the battle scene. Elder Luo was getting more and more furious. Behind him, Xing Yinghao was gloatingly watching. In then suddenly stepped forward, pointing his finger, angrily asked how dare she behave like this to the elder. He said some more unpleasant things. The girl was fed up with it. She was covered in energy, slightly turning her head in their direction, advised her to stop talking about her sect like that. Xing Yinghao laughed. The man himself decided to test what she was capable of, and sent 5 guys at one girl. Su Wanyi scattered everyone with one punch. The guys ran away from her in fear. Lu Dei, holding her kitty tightly in her arms, decided to help the girl after all. The battle with the city head might not be something she could survive. The blonde girl shifted her sad gaze to the equally sad-looking kitty and said that he needed to be put somewhere. But he pushed his paws away from her hand and ran away. Xing Yinghao lowered himself to Su Wanyi, then rushed straight at the girl. The black-haired girl put her sword forward, but the man grabbed it with his hand. Other guys appeared out of nowhere and ran to attack the girl. Su Wanyi felt a guy approaching her from behind. She abruptly turned around and thrust her sword blade into his throat. The enemy fell down holding his throat. The other guys were shocked that the girl had gotten stronger during the fight. Xing Yinghao was furious that the heroine dared to kill his residents and promised that she wouldn't live to see the morning. Lu Dei was looking for a seal all this time. Suddenly, some guys appeared in front of her. They decided to kill Su Wanyi's friend. The girl took out her sword and ordered them to stay back. After all, she had a 2nd-level yuan, and it was more than enough for her. The guys stared at her, perplexed. Lu Dei abruptly turned around and ran away. The guys chased after her. The blonde girl excitedly thought that getting away from them wouldn't be easy. Now she didn't know what to do. Suddenly, she saw Xiao Hei. There were wounded guys lying around Su Wanyi. Xing Yinghao knelt on one knee in front of her. The girl pointed her sword at him and said that anyone who disrespected her sect, she would punish with her own hands. The man threateningly replied that if she killed him, the head of Yinyue City, then her sect would come to an end. But the girl replied that just a little longer and she wouldn't hold back. A bright blue dot appeared in the sky. It was Elder Luo. He flew straight at the girl, but suddenly a huge cat appeared in his path. And then Xiao Hei returned to his former size and jumped onto the girl's shoulder. Xiao Hei tore off Elder Luo's arm. The old man didn't realize what kind of animal it was. One attack that made him lose his entire arm. An unknown guy stepped forward, holding Lu Di hostage. He ordered Su Wanyi not to move, or he would kill the girl. The heroine frowningly asked what he wanted. The guy excitedly asked her not to look at him with that look. Suddenly, Ye Yun appeared from the sky. He had absolutely no idea that the little competition would turn into such a mess. Su Wanyi and the kitty were happy to see him. The master praised the girl. He felt sorry that she wouldn't get her reward. The ancestor glowed with a golden glow. Master Luo quickly flew upwards when he saw him. Luo quickly ran away, but Ye Yun had already directed magic at him. The old man was struck by many sharp swords and exploded. His assistants quickly started to run away. Lude was left standing with her hands tied. Su Wanyi rushed to her aid. The girl untied her and asked if she was all right. Suddenly, an ancestor turned to her and asked if the ancestor named Chang Yu-chun was her. The girl looked at him fearfully. Su Wanyi asked her not to be afraid of her sect master. Lude replied to the man that Chang Yu-chun was the first patriarch of her sect. He was very famous in the continent in his years. Ye-yun saw that the girl's lineage was similar to Chang. He didn't expect to meet his descendants after so many years. The master asked how she ended up here. Lude sadly replied that her home was very far away. Her family had few resources, so only her older brother was training. Therefore, this competition was her only hope to advance. She had arrived here a few months ago to settle down. Su Wanyi was now also upset and blamed herself for ruining the festival. But the blonde girl hurriedly calmed her down. She quickly said that she wouldn't have achieved good results anyway. Ludi thanked the girl for saving her and decided to leave already, because there was nothing else to do. She also invited them to her house, if they were nearby. Master agreed. Su Wanyi looked at him perplexed. Lude had already turned around to leave. But suddenly Su Wanyi approached her, grabbing her hand, said that they were just not busy right now, so they could visit the blonde right away. But the girl turned to her and informed her that it was a long way to her home. 2 months away. Su Wanyi giggled. She asked what was the problem. After all, they could get there by carriage. A horse stood behind them and looked at them questioningly. Men flew up to the Chang family. One of them shouted for Chang Feng to give them the equipment. The head of the family glumly replied to him that his family was not big enough to take the 6 warriors of the deity-becoming world with them. The man from the sky laughed. He didn't like bullying the weak, but it wasn't his fault that the Chan family was so insignificant. The stranger shouted for the man to give him the technique, and they would part in peace afterward. But if not, his family would be destroyed. The head of the Chang family grabbed his sword and said that they would not betray their ancestors' teachings, even if their family was destroyed today. The men threw themselves into battle. Their disciples also faced each other. They also, like their majors, couldn't stand each other. One of them directed a powerful stream of energy at his enemy. The latter put up a shield around him, but it failed and split. Ludi came to her father in time, because the enemy had already defeated her father and was standing over him, with the tip of his sword at his throat. The man gloatingly demanded that Chan's daughter convince her father to give them the technique, or else he would threaten to kill her first. The father excitedly called out to his daughter. The girl remained silent. Then the enemy grabbed him by the chest and began to threaten. Ludi stood confused. The man swung his sword at her, but his blade clanked against another sword. Falling down, the weapon split. It was an angry Su Wanyi. Ye-yun approached the house. He opened the door and walked inside. Taking the incense in his hands, he approached the tombstone. This was his friend. He was his strongest support. He was able to reach the world of life and death by having the body of a despotic Yun. The master was saddened. No one was eternal. The man was upset that after 100 years, they met their friend like this. Ye-yun asked in front of his friend's grave not to worry about his family after all. His family was still living, and out of deep respect, he promised to take care of them. The men who came to take away the Chang family's technique decided to quickly escape, but the girl was not happy about it, so she rushed after them. Su Wanyi applied the 9-dragon god transformation technique. She multiplied. Her powerful energy headed downwards. Ludi asked in surprise, how did the girl manage to jump through the majesty world immediately to the 3rd level of the god-becoming world? Su Wanyi, hovering above the ground, said that her master had sealed her cultivation with a secret technique. She had gone to the competition to gain experience. Now the blonde girl could see what her new friend's true strength was. The main Chan family's main family was overjoyed that they were saved. The man who came hot technique was being approached by an angry Su Wanyi. The man was furious. He wanted to get up from the floor, but the girl swung her sword at him and cut off his arm. The chief shouted exhaustedly. His anger went to the disciple. He asked what he was worth and ordered him to call for help quickly. The aide summoned fireworks in the sky. The man without a hand and his disciple arrived at Elder Ju's house. He was furious that his subordinate had failed at such an easy task, and even managed to lose his arm. Suddenly, the man noticed the mark of the Demon Realm sect on his cloak. It was one of the 3 great sects. Now he realized who was the Grey Cardinal behind this raid. The man without a hand sat down on his knees and said that unforeseen circumstances had come into play, so he asked for Elder Ju's help. Mr. Zhu handed the subordinate a bottle and told him to deal with his wound first, while he could rest. Zhu headed towards Su Wanyi. He was amazed that the 3rd-level girl of the god-becoming world managed to cut off Shenwei's arm. After all, the latter was much stronger. The girl looked at him angrily. She remembered him. This man was on the divine bridge, so she doubted that she could handle him now. Yeyun noticed a flash in the sky. He realized that another person had arrived and felt that Suwanyi was out of his depth. Meanwhile, in the wagon, Mo Xiang and Luo Li were practicing hard. Suddenly, the guy felt the call of the ancestor. Yun was happy to enter the fight after a long time of training. Suwanyi was losing to Ju. The girl fell to the ground. Luo Dei ran to her excitedly. Blood was coming out of the girl's mouth. Her whole body was trembling. The men hovered over her and said that he didn't want to interfere at first because his bones were already too old. Suddenly, Lu Dei bravely stood between them. She angrily said that since his assistant couldn't win, he decided to intervene. The man looked at her with a crazed look and replied that if he took up a case, they didn't stand a chance. He shouted that her family's history would be interrupted here and now. The Chan family disciples were stunned. Hearing these evil words under the shadow of the clear blue sky, Mo Xiang appeared in front of Ju. The man shouted who he was. The guy laughed. Suwanyi was happy to see her brother. Yun asked her sister not to worry. After all, he had already arrived to help her. Ju was shocked that this guy he didn't know had reached the world of Divine Bridge at such a young age. His sister was also shocked and asked him about it. Yun embarrassedly replied that the patriarch had ordered him to seclude himself and cultivate. And then out of the blue, the cultivation developed. The guy pointed at Ju with the tip of his sword and asked how he dared to bully his sister. But now he was going to teach him a lesson. The man was sweating from the exertion, the guy started to attack, and they clashed in a fight. Ju's students started to run away. The girl ordered them to deal with the small fish. Lu Dei's father got in their way, and Suwanyi was already rushing at them from behind. She slashed the man's shoulder, and he fell senseless while Ju fought. Mo Xiang shouted, "How dare they kill his subordinate?" The man was distracted, and the guy wounded him in the shoulder. Yun firmly told him that since he was fighting him, he should look at him. Ju grabbed his arm, from which a river of blood began to flow. The man absolutely loved the fact that he was able to be stumped by some guy. But even worse was the fact that Yun wasn't alone, so the man decided to make a quick escape. He summoned fireworks, Mo Xiang struck, but the sword only split the air. Ju was no longer there. The guy chased after him. Lu Dei was happy to tears that they were able to win. She thanked the girl, because if it wasn't for her, her family's history would have been interrupted today. Suwanyi asked her to relax, but the girl was sad, because this was one of the 3 great sects. Her family just miraculously escaped disaster. The master stooped down to them and told Lu Dei that it was just a demon realm sect. She had nothing to fear. Suwanyi and Lu Dei were overjoyed when they saw the master. Ye Yun, along with the girls, and Lu Dei's father were in the room. There was a wounded guy lying on the bed. The ancestor poured the contents of the bottle into his mouth and then used magic. The blonde girl sadly asked if her brother could be cured. The man rejoiced the girl, saying that it was still possible to save. Head Chang said that his son Chang Yizhou had been seriously injured in a clash with the Shen family 3 days ago. His meridians had been disrupted, and the doctor said that the boy could no longer be helped. The man realized that the path to cultivation was closed for his son, but as a father, he wanted Ye Yun to save his life. Suddenly, Chan heard his son's faint voice, the boy getting up from the bed to ask what was going on. His father excitedly jumped up to him and shouted that he should lie down or his wounds wouldn't heal. But the lad didn't have any wounds anymore. The man gratefully knelt down in front of the master and thanked him for saving his family. Ye Yun reached out his hand to him and replied that he shouldn't have thanked him because his ancestor, Chang Yuchun, was his comrade. It came to the man's attention that the master was over 100,000 years old. He was amazed. A bright blue pictogram shone in the sky. Ye Yun had set a seal around the Chang Manor, and now no one below the Fate World would be able to destroy it. He told the head of Chan that this was the circle of the seal and they should cherish it. The man accepted it. And also the master gave them the Chang family's physical technique because the one they had was not ideal, so it was better to use this one. Also, their family needed a Yuanyang stone to reach the Fate World. So Ye Yun set up a portal to a hidden world that only the members of the Chang family could pass through. There were Yuanyang stones inside. It should be enough for them. The man looked at all the offerings in shock. He knelt down and bowed low. He thanked the master and said that there was no way he could ever repay him for this goodness. The wagon drove down the road. All the members of the Chan family bowed low to the guys. The secret world that Master Chan gave was opened once every 5 years, so the guys decided to quickly go collect as many stones as possible. The Chan family moved into uncharted territory. Bra Lu Dei took the stone in his hands and looked at it with curiosity. This was the first time they had seen Yuanyang stones. They noticed in excitement that the mountain in front of them was one huge Yuanyang stone. Among the mountains, there were 3 people hovering over the river. They formed a triangle and were trying to catch someone. The guys formed a trap and a redfish came out of the water. One of the sorcerers was happy that they had succeeded in catching the golden dragon-colored fish. Suddenly, something flew right into the fish. The guy stared fearfully at the water. Right on top of the fish landed Mr. Zhu. The blonde guy asked him what he was doing here. The man asked for their help because he was being chased. The guy was angry and didn't understand what kind of fool dared to go against the Demon Realm sect. Mo Shang suddenly appeared. Putting his sword behind his back, he boldly approached the group of guys. The disciples started to approach him. The blonde suddenly laughed at the fact that the guy was at the level of the divine bridge and was making a strongman of himself, and then made a frantic face. Energy formed around him. He asked for a name so he would know what to write on his grave. Mo Shang proudly told his name and who he was. When the guy heard that he was from the Divine Dragon sect, he was puzzled. He had never heard of such a sect. The injured Jew said that it was the Divine Dragon sect that helped the Chang family and called them scum. The guy became furious and promised that he would pay for his words. The blonde guy shouted to his comrades to stop him. The guys put their fingers together in a sign. At this time, Mo Xiang pointed his sword at Zhu. The guys were going to kill Mo Xiang with the formation. Swords flew at Yun. The carriage was traveling in the forest. Ye Yun felt that Junmo Xiao, the girl's brother, was in trouble. Su Wanyi gustily agreed to help him, but the man said that the girl was not a rival to these people, so he had already contacted Luo Li. Mo Shang was almost hit by one of the glowing beams. He was a little confused. The blonde man was about to finish him off, but suddenly Luo Li appeared in the battle. She came to save her brother, but the guy replied that he had everything under control. They stood back to back. The girl did not argue and asked him to watch the fight. The blonde guy silently watched the guys and then shouted what everyone was standing for and ordered him to kill them. The glowing swords headed towards Luo Li and Mo Xiang, but the guys were able to prevent the attack. Suddenly, Zhu noticed that the fish started to develop. The blonde guy noticed it too. They had to hurry because they were running out of time. The guy and his companions were surrounded by magic. Luo Li looked at them incomprehensibly. Horns grew on the guys' heads. They were furious and demanded to grant them their power. Mo Shang looked at their transformation and said that they could do that too. The girl guessed that her brother was referring to the fusion technique they were taught. The guy replied that they had to show these guys how big the gap between them was. Luo Li agreed and the merging began. The heroine was all surrounded by a golden glow. The blonde guy frightenedly noticed that they also possessed a transformation. The girl's brother laughed gloatingly. Their dragon technique was very strong. Even the first level of it was already a 5-fold increase in combat power. But Luo Li, swinging her sword, warned that they had to hurry because the payment for this power was boiling blood. They had a tight time limit. The blonde man carried straight at the heroine. The girl swung at the guy with all her might. The blades of her sword met directly with the blonde man's frightened eyes. A bright golden light flashed brightly in the sky. The enemies below excitedly called out to their leader. Mo Shang was rushing at them. He swung his sword and the guys wheezed, all the while standing aside and watching Zhu. He couldn't believe how this was possible. The man was scared and wanted to run away from this place quickly. But suddenly in front of him, he saw a cat innocently licking its paws. Zhu didn't realize how it got here, but he didn't feel any demonic connection, so he thought it was just a black cat. But the man still had an unpleasant feeling. The man raised his hands in front of him and warily began to walk past, apologizing to the cat for disturbing him. Suddenly, the cat abruptly released its claws and slashed at the man with them. A carriage was approaching the guys. Luo Li and Mo Xiang were happy that the patriarch had arrived. Su Wanya, holding Ye Yun under her arm, walked out of the carriage with him towards the guys. The master asked them not to use the transformation technique often from now on, because it was detrimental to their bodies and cultivation. The guy admitted that the technique was difficult to maintain, and he was still dizzy. Cody sat on the defeated Jew and caustically told Mo Xiang that blood had nothing to do with it. He was just weak. The guy was embarrassed. Su Wanyi, laughing, told her little sister to also rest. After using such a serious technique, Luo Li, awkwardly scratching the back of her head, also laughed. Ye Yun, frowning at the fish, asked Xiaohei to destroy the formation. The seal did it quickly, and the fish turned into a young lad. He thanked the seal, but Xiaohei said that he shouldn't be thanked because it was the Lord's order. The guy was surprised, and then Ye Yun appeared before him in all his glory. The guy hurriedly sat down on his knees in front of the master. His name was Lun Yu, and he greeted the patriarch. Luo Li angrily waved his hand and told the guy to have honor. After all, he wasn't his patriarch. But the guy glumly replied to the girl that he was from the Golden Dragon Color Fish clan. It was an offshoot of the Dragon clan, and he could sense the blood of a true, noble dragon in the patriarch. But the master was a human cultivator. He had the blood of ancient dragons flowing in him. but not Lun Yu's ancestors, the guy wanted to object, but he was interrupted by an ancestor. He said that Lun Yu also had dragon blood flowing in him. He didn't understand why he had only reached the 6th level of the divine bridge world, and asked how he ended up in such a situation. Lun Yu told him that there used to be many golden dragon-colored fish, but now there were only 20 to 30 people left, and they had to hide at the bottom of the river. They had to rely on the protection of the imperfect formation left by the ancient sect, and this was the only way they could avoid extinction. Master said that the Chenlin River was far away, but he had gotten here alone, so he assumed that someone from his family was injured. So the guy swam here to get the golden lotus at the bottom. Lun Yu was delighted with the master's intelligence. He said that the head of his family was seriously injured, and when he was waiting for the golden lotus to ripen, he was attacked by people from the sect. Ye Yun stepped on the water and walked to the middle. He poured the contents of the bottle into the lake. The water all lit up and a lotus floated to the surface. Luo Li watched mesmerized as their master resorted to his magic. Ye Yun handed Lun Yu the finished lotus. The guy was surprised. He had nurtured the lotus for 2 years, and this man only needed a couple minutes. He was at a loss for such magic. Ye Yun seriously ordered Lun Yu to lead them to the Quanlin River, straight to his clan. There were fish swimming in the depths of the river. Xiao He sniffed the place, and suspiciously said that this place was strange and unpleasant. At the bottom of the river was a dilapidated city. The guys were walking among the ruins while under a protective dome. Luo Li, looking around the city, said that these ruins have been standing since the time of the dragon carp ancestor. Suddenly, a ghost without eye sockets loomed over her. The girl frightenedly bounced away from it right into the hands of Shu Wanyi. Lun Yu asked them not to be frightened and explained that these were the residual images of ancient monks' consciousnesses. They were harmless illusions, so there was no need to be afraid of them. Mo Xiang decided to check, slipping his hand through the ghost, and told his sister that there was nothing to be afraid of. Luoli embarrassedly replied that she was not afraid. He just appeared to her out of nowhere and cold. Her sister laughed at her. Suddenly, a man with horns and pitchforks approached the boys. He was displeased that outsiders had entered their sacred lands. Lun Yu called out to him, and only when he noticed him did he visibly calm down, but he still didn't understand why his brother had brought people to them. The lad answered nothing, but only asked about the head and told him that he had obtained a colored golden lotus. His comrade was surprised. He opened a portal that should take them to the head of the clan. A man with a mermaid tail instead of legs was sitting on a bench, his eyes closed. Lun Yuya appeared. He joyfully called out to the head and said that he had obtained a lotus. Behind him stood the master. The head, when he saw Ye Yun, excitedly lowered his face to the bottom. He was the 54th ruler of the Lun Qing Dragon Lake. His disciples turned around to look at the ancestor in shock. Ye Yun himself was also surprised that the golden dragon-colored fish had already changed 50-plus generations. Lun Yu took out a box that contained a scroll. He opened it. There was an image of Ye Yun. He compared the scroll to the real man and decided that it was indeed him. The head of the Lunqing clan lowered his head down and cried. He said that 100,000 years had passed, and he didn't hope to see him again. The man asked him to get up and said that now the sect head was not him, but a completely different person. Luoli appeared in the aisle, and the master said that she was now the patriarch, and he could just call him master. The girl was confused. The heroine didn't understand what was going on, and Lunqing decided to tell everything. The ancient ancestor of their family came from the divine dragon sect 100,000 years ago. Back then, a certain person released 100-colored dragon carp into this lake. After that person asked Mr. Hongfu to enlighten them, and over time, they became the Dragon Carp clan. Ye Yun noticed that the wound on Lun Qing's body was left by someone's blade. He frowningly asked who it was. The man said that their family used to roam near the Shenfeng Seven, but they had stumbled upon a strong cultivator from the Divine Blade sect, who wanted to make a medicinal drug out of them. Lun Qing's strength was not enough, so he lost his tail. His strength dropped from the Nirvana world to the 10th level of the Divine Bridge world. He miraculously survived. Luoli was furious when she heard about the cursed Divine Blade sect again. Suddenly, magic began to gather around Ye Yun. Lun Qing watched him in astonishment. He remembered that back then, the Lord was the strongest cultivator, and thought that he had already been able to reach the level of a true god now. Suanya covered herself with her hand from the bright glow of the ancestor, thought that it was exactly the same as when he had saved her. The man opened a space. Lun Qing was amazed that his lord had actually reached the true god world. The ghosts of the monks came out to the temple, from where a huge stream of energy gusted. There was a wooden plank at the bottom of the lake. A glowing hand appeared from there. A man rose from it, illuminating with a bright blue glow. A huge number of ghost monks hovered over him. He began to consume their souls. But suddenly the man was snatched by the scruff of the neck and carried to another place. He screamed, and when the master threw him down, menacingly asked who dared to do such a thing. The man angrily stretched out his hand and called for a blade, but no blade was in a hurry to come to his palm. He hysterically shouted why his sword cultivation was sealed. The man was recognized by Lun Qing. His name was Li Gongsun, and the fish head had never even thought that he would ever meet him. Li Gongsun recognized him too. Ye Yun shouted an order to Lun Qing. The man backed away in fear, but the head of the fishes was beside him in an instant and grabbed his head. Lun Qing laughed furiously. After all, he, Lun Qing, who was just lying on his deathbed, had killed his nemesis. Ye Yun said that it was too early for him to die yet, and then demanded to devour the golden lotus faster and promised to help restore his body. Luo Li, who was standing behind the ancestor, said that when she first met the patriarch, his bones had grown flesh right before her eyes. Lun Yu was surprised that there was such a thing in their world. After all the procedures, the man finally grew a tail and legs. The head thanked the Lord. Mo Shang, who had been standing on the steps watching everything the whole time, saw the illusion of the monarch's consciousness approaching them. He waved his hand at it and asked who was here. The ghost rumbled and dissolved. Luo Li asked what it was. Ye Yun replied that the ancient heroic souls had awakened due to the fluctuations that were caused by his power. Lun Qing said that tens of thousands of years ago, there was an ancient sect that was called Tai Xuanmen. He learned about it by chance after coming across their tablet deep in the ruins. Ye Yun already roughly understood what had happened. He called everyone with him to take a look. A statue was standing, but suddenly it split open and a human spirit burst out of it. Luo Li asked the master what it was. Ye Yun replied that it was one of the sect heads, and now he had awakened him from his sleep in the demonic statue. Heroic souls were the remnants of the consciousness of long-dead powerful monks. After death, they would gather the spiritual energy left around them and create a spiritual body for themselves. As a rule, everything stopped there, but some monks were strong in mind. Their heroic bodies managed to restore echoes of memory. And this very statue was one of those. It had been worshipped for years, it had gathered a lot of energy, but it was no longer worshipped. So the spirit absorbed the souls of its worshippers and became possessed. The spirit saw the guys, their beating hearts attracted it. The monster suddenly snapped out of its seat and pounced on them. Lun Qing was shocked when he saw the soul monks and then the monster that had woken up and was now furious. The clan head wanted to rush into the battle, but he was stopped by the ancestor and told that the one was no match for him because he was only in the world of nirvana. The master told the cat to fight because they were both at the 7th level of the nirvana world. Xiaohui was happy to fight because he had been sitting at the same level for 100 years. The monster froze in astonishment when he saw the fierce cat being carried at him, surrounded by a bright light. But suddenly the cat's ghost turned into him, now facing the demonic cat with an extra tail from somewhere. The demonic cat attacked Xiaohui. The real kitty cat ducked fearfully. The enemy's attacks were very strong. The ghost landed. Xiaohui looked at it fearfully. Suddenly the cat heard the master's voice. He encouraged him, saying that he would only be able to evolve by defeating the enemy. So this was his best opportunity. Ye Yun helped the cat, and the cat was very moved by his act. It all shimmered with bright golden lightning and boldly decided to fight the inner demon. The demon cat started to attack again, but Xiaohui was the first to wound it with a confident strike. The ghost cried out prolongedly in pain. It was already too weak. So the demon cat finished it off. Suddenly, Xiaohui began to rapidly glow, and then he had a 4th tail. He had advanced to the 2nd development and was very happy about it. The kitty threw himself at Ye Yun's feet and tearfully thanked him, because if it wasn't for him, he wouldn't have succeeded. The horse kicked away from the master cat's leg and ordered him not to stick to his master. But Xiaohui was not offended. He was too happy about his 4th tail. Lun Qing happened to see the horse kick the 9-tailed cat. He was surprised by this and thought that the horse was even stronger than the cat. Ye Yun reassured Lun Qing. There was no need for his people to stay here now. The sect was going to spread its wings again, and the Dragon Lake would also be restored again. The master asked the man if his family was willing to swear allegiance to the divine dragon sect again. Lun Qing abruptly sat down on his knee and replied that the colored fish family hoped to return to the waters of the Dragon Lake. They also hoped that their exile would end, and they would be welcomed back. Ye Yun, extending his hand, warned that for now, they could live in a world where the vast ocean was waiting for them, where they could wait for the restoration of the Dragon Lake. The guys heading to that world were eternally grateful to Master. Luo Li congratulated the patriarch. She was surprised that the fishes had returned to their sect. The man holding a fancy-shaped bottle told the girl that she was now the head, so they belonged to her. The girl, glowing, promised to gather as many divine beasts as she could to make their sect even stronger. But right now it was more important to strengthen their cultivation base. After all, the three of them were the representatives of the divine dragon sect. Yeyun turned to Su Wanyi. Her cultivation was the weakest, so he asked her to seclude herself in the carriage for how many days and process all the experience gained from the competition. Next, the master handed the cat a flask. It was the 1,000 Emperor pills. She and the horse had to take 1 pill a day. Then they would soon reach the world of destiny. Luoli suspected something wrong, reaching out her hand to her ancestor. She almost crying. She asked that he was going to leave them and go away. But the man, placing his hand on her head, had no intention of leaving them and explained that his world was about to unfold. He was afraid it would bring about a catastrophe of heaven and earth, so he wanted to find some secluded, deserted place. The girl congratulated him for passing the true God world. She was already upset and thought he wanted to leave them. Ye Yun wasn't going to go anywhere until he brought the three of them to the immortal world, the seal. Importantly, holding the flask in his hands, asked the horse what went after the true God world. The horse felled him again and said that he didn't need to know. Ye Yun opened a passage for himself and lastly ordered the guys to continue practicing. It was time for them to take care of it on their own. Luoli had tears flowing from her eyes when the patriarch left them using the portal. She didn't want to part with him, even if it was for a short time. The world was filled with electrified energy. Undulating lines of magic came out of the ground, heading straight for the sky, forming black holes there. The master was at the top of the Canaan continent, looking at everything that was happening. In hundreds of thousands of years, it hadn't changed one bit. Suddenly, 2 bright dots appeared from one hole. The man turned his attention to them. One of the men sadly said that it wouldn't work. Even if the 2 of them tried, they still wouldn't be able to set foot on the Tuncheon road. So there was nothing to do with their immortality worlds. But the other replied that there were instances where cultivators with immortal worlds had managed to pass through it. That was what they were counting on. Yeyun approached them and asked these Taoists to tell more about this road. The men didn't sense the master's level or see any cultivation, which was strange. The master said that he was a lone cultivator without a sect, telling them that he had just returned from seclusion and heard them talking about this path. One of them said that 90,000 years ago, the Ice Phoenix sect leader had reached the limit of the immortal world. After that, he came here and left Chenin through this road. Later, the road was called the Tuncheon Road, but only 3 cultivators had managed to leave Quanan through this road over the years. The ancestor didn't know if the man from the Ice Phoenix sect was an acquaintance of his, but he decided that if he had the chance to ask, he would definitely ask. He thanked the men for the information and rushed straight into that hole, one of them noticing that he was stronger than all of them put together. A golden staircase appeared in front of Yeyuname, and he began to climb it. It was a divine-level formation. Even for him, it was unusual. But it was too early for the ancestor to leave the Canaan continent. He didn't know what would happen to Luo Li and the others. They needed to evolve faster. Near the wagon, a brother and sister passed by. The sister shouted to her brother to hurry up because the Sword King Stone was about to open soon. Luo Li heard the conversation and came out to Mo Xiang and told him that she had heard that the Sword King Stone had opened. So she suggested that she go there too. But her brother was unsure, as the elder had only secluded herself in her room, so he was worried about how they would leave her behind. The heroine grabbed Xiaohei by the scruff of the neck and said that the cat would look after her and the horse would also be with them. They needed to evolve, but Yun was a bit displeased and acted wary because, after the master departed, their cultivation had returned to the level of the world of becoming a god. Luo Li flew out of the carriage and asked him what he was so afraid of. She wasn't worried about it, because their strength was at the second level of the divine bridge world. Many people piled up near a large stone. They were meeting the Shaoyang sword sect. A man moved his eyebrows to the bridge of his nose and looked at the stone. He said that he would definitely understand the profound meaning of the Sword King Stone. Suddenly, Shaoyang saw Luo Li and Mo Xiang. He was angered that they, lesser than him in strength, dared to climb to enlightenment ahead of him. Mo Xiang reached out his hand towards the stone and said that there was a familiar aura coming from it. Suddenly, a guy approached the guys and rudely told them to get out of the way. The master of the Shaoyang sword sect was walking towards them. The girl turned to him and asked her brother if he had ever heard of this sect. The guy replied that there were 3 major sects in the Shenfeng dynasty, and there was no such sect among them. The guy from the Shaoyang sword sect, Lin Ye, didn't pay attention to this and asked them if they understood what was written on this stone. Mo Xiang said in a friendly manner that they were just passing by, they were curious, so they decided to stop by to take a look. The white-haired man unpleasantly asked if it was scary for them to stand near a 10th level cultivator of the 10th level of the god-becoming world. Mo Xiang stood confused and didn't understand why today's youths were so overconfident. Luo Li suddenly volunteered to argue with Lin Ye. He asked with interest how. The girl replied that they would see who could achieve more enlightenment in 3 days. If the guy lost, he was to become Luo Li's servant for 3 days. Lin Ye laughed out loud. He was amused that the girl had the nerve to make a bet with him. After all, he was a born genius. Luo Li provoked him whether he had the courage. The guy agreed and said that if she lost, he would take her blade. The girl angrily surrounded herself with magic. The guy did the same. Other people standing in the distance watched them with delight. The three of them sat on the ground and began to meditate. In his thoughts, Mo Xiang told his sister his suspicions about the stone's aura. He was sure that these writings were left by their patriarch. The red ball rose up, Xiao He jumped after it, he caught up with the capsule and deftly ate it. Suddenly someone told the cat that he had a good life, and the fifth tail was just around the corner. Xiao He, thinking it was the master, replied that it was his best decision in life to attach himself to the master. But when the seal looked up, he saw the face of a stranger. It was a horse that took on the appearance of a man. He asked, remembering that he had to protect the young sect head and the others. Xiao He snickered and already thought that he had to go save them. But the man told him to train and watch and decided to stretch himself. Luo Li and Mo Xiang were still sitting meditating. They were able to summon 9 sword souls at the same time. This had never happened before. Past aspiring swordsmen had not been able to create more than 6. The sword souls hovered over the guys. Those watching were ecstatic that they were able to instantly comprehend the Sword King's stone. Lin Yi excitedly looked at his brother and sister, sadly thinking that he was only able to achieve 4 swords, so he didn't understand how they were able to do it. The masked man was watching them from the cliff. 1,000 years had passed, and the man didn't think he could meet a genius capable of comprehending 9 soul swords once more. It was a blessing from above, and the masked man was relieved to think that his inheritance of the Sword King's stone had some worthy heirs. Suddenly, the stone began to split, and then it completely shattered, and the souls of 2 people emerged from it. Suddenly, Luo Li had a 10th sword. Lin Ye was surprised. After all, there should only be 9 of them. Luo Li stood up and stretched. The sword Qi, left behind by the patriarch, helped her advance 1 level. She now had the 3rd level of the god-becoming world. Mo Xiang had also advanced to a new level. He admitted that he didn't expect there to be a set of 9 heavenly lotus swords. He was also able to realize the set that the ancestor had left behind. The girl was able to realize the set that belonged to a strong woman who fought with a sword master. But the heroine wondered what kind of person was able to match him. The guys who had been watching before suddenly shouted at them and threatened that they wouldn't go anywhere after destroying the stone, because this stone was very important to the disciples of their sect, so they weren't going to just let Luo Li and Mo Xiang go. Suddenly from the sky ordered everyone to be quiet. The guys raised their heads and saw the cultivator. He was at the 10th level of the Fate World. A masked man descended towards Luo Li and Mo Xiang. He was the guardian of the stone. The man didn't even expect that they would be able to reach the 10th sword soul, encapsulated in the stone, entrusted to his sword palace. And since brother and sister carried the legacy of the sword, King Stone had to join his sword palace. The guys looked at him unhappily. Luo Li indignantly replied that this sword had been left behind by an ancestor of the Divine Dragon sect and had now returned to its rightful owner. Lin Yi approached her and began to angrily whisper what she was carrying, and told her to agree. After all, this was an invitation from a secret sect that was stronger than the 3 great sects. The girl didn't like that the guy who lost to them was now teaching her, but the guy recognized that he had lost and just advised her to accept without a shadow of a doubt. Mo Xiang's hand rested on Lin Yi's shoulder, laughing. He began to explain that Luo Li was the head of the Divine Dragon sect. Pointing his finger at the masked man, said that their horse was stronger than this man, so they weren't going to abandon their sect for him. The masked man suddenly became angry. Everything around him shimmered, since the guys didn't agree to join him, decided to take away everything they had learned. Lin Ye was agitated that Luo Li and Mo Xiang had angered him. Now they would have a hard time. But the girl didn't mind trying out the sword techniques they had just learned. The technique involved using 2 swords, so the brother and sister were not afraid of anyone. The unknown masked man launched streams of energy at them, but his attack was prevented by Ye Yun, who appeared just in time. He grabbed his sparks of magic and squeezed it in his hand. The man asked if he knew Liu Yi. The man confusedly asked how he knew his ancestor's name. The master told him to forget and not to guard so jealously the traces of the battle that once took place here. The man recognized the ancestor and called him by name. Luo Li was furious about this, for no one dared to call their master by name. The girl rushed at him and almost injured him, but the man dodged in time. The master himself said that it didn't matter because the legacy they left behind had found its successor. So the story was over. But Ye Yun was going to punish him for raising his hand against their students. With his magic, the stones rose up. The master himself rose above the ground and sentenced the masked man to be imprisoned here for 500 years. The man obediently knelt down and thanked his master. Suddenly, a girl with the same glow as the master appeared out of nowhere. A man appeared from behind the rocks. He watched them and said that the master had punished him specially like this, because 500 years would be enough for him to cross the boundary of the destiny world. The incarnation of the master was here, and the man could no longer be wrong. So he decided to prepare in advance, and he was curious about what the little sect head would do. Luo Li was curious. This was the first time she had seen the ancestor behave like this, and assumed that the woman was very close to him, so she decided to ask next time. Linya was about to run away under the noise, but the girl stopped him. The guy, seeing that they were disciples of strong people, apologized for being helpful to them. The heroine said that she heard that there was a strange beast nearby. She did not need a servant, but since he lost the bet, she asked Linya to take them to the beast as payback. The guy immediately realized that she was talking about Lei Zi. The girl said that on the way here, she and her brother heard people talking about him, so they wanted to see it. Linya said that it was a strange beast that the three great sects wanted to get. They hired many people to defeat him. Therefore, he warned that he had to be careful with it, but the girl didn't care about that. Linya looked at her glumly and thought that it was true. After all, the girl had declined the cultivator's invitation and was the head of the mysterious sect, and also inherited 10 sword souls from the ancient head of her sect. The guy noticed that Luo Li was proud of herself, so the three sects didn't embarrass her. Linya decided that if she wanted to find trouble, so be it, and he was going to make a sneaky escape. After all, there was no need for him to risk his life, so the boy agreed to walk them to the beast. The big bird was sitting in the water and drinking, with 3 people looking at it from afar. The 3 sects had found Lei Zi at the same time, so one of them asked the others how they would share him. Another man replied that he didn't steal from women, so he first asked the girl from the Divine Balance sect to say a word. The girl gladly accepted the gift, but the man glumly clarified that he offered to listen to her, but promised nothing. Suddenly, they heard something and looked closely at the beast. The bird froze, and then its bright blue outline loomed over Luo Li. Lei Zi looked impressive, so the girl wanted it for herself. Her brother warned her to be careful because the bird had the essence of thunder. The heroine confidently asked him not to worry. She promised not to hurt the bird. Bright red streams of energy flew. The bird was releasing them directly at the guys. Linya hid behind a rock and watched from afar. He anxiously noticed that the 3 sects were already here. A guy from the Demon Realm sect was standing on the cliff. Magic was concentrated in his hands. He wanted to show everyone how to defeat Lei Zi, but a bird flew at him where the guy was standing. Right below him, the beast lightning destroyed the rock. The other sect guys decided to help him. The girl directed her lines of magic at Lei Zi. She managed to grab the bird, and the guy struck. Lei Zi flew down. Another man with horns was waiting for him from below. He was already ready to strike. The bird closed its eyes, preparing for the worst. Suddenly, Luo Li shouted, "How dare they take this monster away from them?" She used her sword to shatter the ribbons, and the bird flew down, freed from the girl's magic. Mo Shang was already rushing forward with his sword drawn forward at the guy with horns, but his opponent grabbed the blade and threw the weapon into the wall with all his strength. Right next to Linya, Lei Zi landed right next to him. The man with horns angrily ordered everyone to be killed. Luo Li and Mo Shang were next to the injured bird. A huge number of bright blue dots began to appear in the sky above their heads. These dots began to fall directly on the guys. Lin Ye fearfully hid behind the bird, covering his head. He was afraid that he definitely wouldn't survive the attack of the 3 sects. The magic swept right next to him, but Luo Li was able to repel the blow. Lei Zi came to his senses. His sister and brother were fighting hard. They didn't want to let the sects kill the bird. Mo Shang jumped towards the enemies. He wanted to test what the Heavenly Lotus 9 sword technique using 2 swords could do. His magic flew at the enemy and knocked everyone down. After that, a guy with green hair and a man with horns flew up to the guy. They attacked him. But suddenly a bright red ray of energy passed through them. They shrieked. Luo Li equaled her brother and seriously noticed that when sword techniques bind, they become twice as strong. Lei Zi recovered and flew up to the guys standing behind their backs. Suddenly, one of the enemies remembered that his sister and brother had commandeered a heritage stone. This stone was used by the smaller sects to achieve enlightenment, and this incident caused a commotion among the smaller sects and also affected the secret sword sect. The red-haired girl, upon hearing this news, suggested asking for help from the elders of the three sects, because at this rate, they risked losing more disciples and losing out. But there was no need to ask anyone. The elders themselves showed up at their door. Luo Li shouted to them that they were not from the Sword Palace. One of the elders had heard of the Divine Dragon sect and heard that they had killed Elder Luo in Sanyuan. Another said that they had killed Elder Ju of his sect. Their head had ordered to open a hunt for them, so he didn't even think that they would come to his hands. The third suggested attacking the guys with a united front. A blue funnel appeared in the sky. It was made by Lei Zi. The men felt that someone was approaching them. A man came out of the funnel. With him was a white leopard, and behind him stood a huge snow giant. One of the elders recognized them. They were Jile mountain monsters. He was puzzled as to why they were here, and even with a human. The other elder anxiously said that it was not a human, but a monster that was several times stronger than the couple. Luo Li seriously asked her brother if this man seemed familiar to her. The girl guessed and said she knew who it was. Pointing her finger at him, the heroine shouted for the big black horse to kill them. The man grumbled unhappily. His monsters were surprised. The red-haired elder laughed and said that this was a great demon he had cultivated in the mountains for many years. He was amused that the girl thought he would listen to her. Those were the last words said by this elder, because immediately a lightning bolt blew his head off his shoulders. The other two elders looked on frightened and shocked. The man ordered his beasts to kill the trio. The leopard and the huge giant ran to fulfill the order. The man, a black horse, came down to the guys. He was glad that the young sect leader recognized him. The girl said that his ancestor had ordered him to look after them, and he had ridden away, and asked if he was afraid she would tell on him. The man was offended by this, for he had come here to protect them, not because of the little ones, a giant and a leopard from Mount Jile. The black horse in the form of a man congratulated the girl for capturing Lei Zhe, and said that the master would be happy about it when he returned. Luo Li shifted her eyebrows glumly, waved her hand, and said that this trio had prevented them from quietly going about their business. Suddenly, from behind the girl, Jile bowed his head and asked to be admitted. Luo Li turned to him with a blush on her face. The man noticed that no one was disturbing the girl, and the beast had already become docile. Suddenly, everything above them shimmered. The girl was scared and didn't understand what was happening. The man told her that it was the patriarch. He was moving on to the next stage. Lightning sparked in the sky. Right next to the elders, lightning struck. One of them anxiously remarked that it wasn't just thunder, it was a thunder of sorrow. The lightning landed right next to a leopard. He was startled and shouted angrily to the man that his patriarch was not thinking of them. The black horse was angry and told his beast that the thunder of sorrow corresponded to the power of the world he originally had, and the ancestor had the world of a true god. Luo Li put his palms together and asked the black horse not to interfere in their showdown with the sects, because they wanted to seize the opportunity to become stronger. They didn't want to embarrass the patriarch. The black horse agreed and warned that if the situation got out of hand, the girl should call out to him. He rose above her and, glaring angrily in their direction, said convincingly that he would kill them in a heartbeat. The boys drew their swords and flew to fight. A white cocoon formed around them, and then they channeled blue lotuses. The lightning bolts hit them, and large blue lotuses formed behind the brother and sister's backs. The elder noticed that they had evolved, but they were only at the 4th level of the divine bridge world. So he ordered his own to kill them. The horned guy drank the elixir and his body began to transform. The other horned guys accepted the order and rushed at Luo Li and Mo Xiang. The girl pointed the lotuses at them. The guy flew towards them and directed magic at the enemies. The man, a black horse, was watching from the side. He was surprised that the guys were able to evolve so quickly only because of the tiger dragon pills. A lightning bolt suddenly headed towards him and almost hit him, but the man stopped it with his hand. He anxiously noticed that the lightning was much weaker than the previous ones. A patriarch appeared in the sky. He had passed the world of a true god. A fireball appeared in his hand. The guys had already taken pills, so they would be able to do it again in this battle. He directed the ball that was called God's Tear. It should help him in training. The pills headed towards Luo Li and Mo Xiang. They were surrounded by bright golden magic. Now it was up to them to defeat their enemies. They decided to change formation. The sister and brother dispatched 2 dragons. The enemies had never seen such a thing, but they still expected to kill them. The demon ordered the golden weapon above their heads to be destroyed first, because it gave them energy. They started to approach the bright golden ball. The black horse became furious that they dared to touch the patriarch's magical weapon, and pointed his shield straight at the demon. He was next to the ball and angrily said that they could fight all they wanted. but he wouldn't let them get near the magic ball. The demons surrounded the guys. Mo Xiang recognized that things were bad, although the patriarch helped them, but there were too many of them. So he suggested his sister to use fusion. The girl asked him to keep his cool, because these people didn't deserve to have their blood burn. They needed to hold out a little longer because the energy transferred by the patriarch would allow them to level up even more. One incense stick later, and Luo Li and Mo Xiang evolved some more. One of the elders was astonished to see that the guys had advanced to the 5th level of the divine bridge world. Holding his hand, the elder ordered them to retreat because they were being helped by someone very strong. And they shouldn't lose disciples, they needed a plan. So all the enemies started to retreat and take the wounded guys. The man, the black horse, lowered himself into the water and said that if Luo Li hadn't stopped him, he would have slaughtered them with his bare hands. The brother and sister also lowered themselves to the ground. They knew he could have helped, but thanked him for not interfering. Suddenly, leaves swooped down on them. The man turned around and saw Ye Yun. They all greeted him. The master called out to them all. There were beasts standing behind the guys. The man put out his palm. Suddenly, a powerful lightning bolt from the sky pierced all the animals. The guys were shocked. The master explained to them that the outsiders should not have known that he had reached the world of the true God. The animals didn't die, but stood and looked at them questioningly. The guys made a promise to keep everything a secret. The man said that they would be able to dilute the bloodline of ancient dragons. Suddenly, Ye Yun pulled the cat and Su Wanyi. The cat immediately threw itself at the man's feet. It missed him. The horse in the form of a man was not happy. Su Wanyi embarrassedly greeted the patriarch. The man said to the girl that the thunder pool was suitable for cultivation, so he asked her to stay here to pass the world. Su Wanyi agreed and sat in the lotus posture, meditating. Suddenly, the cat sensed something. A bright red dot appeared in the sky. The horse turned around and told the ancestor that they had guests. An old man with silver eyes and an old man with golden eyes were rushing towards them. They looked like elves and goblins. They were approaching the Thunder Mountains because deep within the mountains was a pool where the forces of destruction and the forces of life intersected. It was very good for cultivation. But the old man noticed that there were already 3 strong monsters here. So he asked them to be careful, and they hovered in the air. The first old man introduced himself. They were the saints of the Jile Mountains. The horseman introduced his ancestor to the monsters. They greeted him, then pointed at Luo Li, and the monsters also greeted her. Next pointed to the cat and angrily said that the strangers scared his comrade. Lazy asked that they could help him let off steam, but the man stopped the bird, then turned to the master and said that the kitten had become like his own, so he wanted to help him. Ye Yun saw that the gray-haired man was just bored, so he allowed him to have fun. The man was overjoyed. He grabbed the cat by the scruff of the neck, and they took to the sky together with the bird. The master suggested Luo Li and Mo Xiang to watch them. He would hide his aura and presence, so he asked them to be careful. The cat incomprehensibly asked the man why he restricted his cultivation to the 9th level of the Nirvana world. He flicked a flick at the blackie and explained that these guys only had the Fate world, and if he fought seriously, it would be boring. The kitty tearfully complained to the horse that they had almost killed him that time, so he asked for revenge for him. When they flew closer, the strangers introduced themselves. They were from Wanlongling, Tianqing dynasty. They said that they had come to visit the Thunder Pool. The man got bored with their chatter. He put the cat forward and asked if they remembered him. One of them exclaimed excitedly that it was a disgrace to the 9-tailed clan. For 1,000 years had passed, and he had not reached the world of destiny. The cat became furious and said that his fellow 10th level Nirvana world, he promised that he would wipe the floor with them. The man with silver eyes laughed at the cat. The horseman prepared to attack. The enemy was the first to rush at him. The male horse repelled his attack and threw a lightning bolt at him. The men with silver and golden eyes decided to attack together, but the horse grabbed one man's leg and sent him upwards. The enemy collided with a rock, and there was an explosion. They thought he was a black stone demon because his body was too strong, but they were still confident that they would deal with him. Circles of magic appeared between their palms. The horse, seeing what they were doing, shamed them that the demons of the Fate world can't win, so they resort to artifacts. The horse, blushing, decided to take the matter seriously. Luo Li, Mo Xiang, and Ye Yun watched from the clouds. The girl was puzzled that the horse would continue like this. The master said that the man was looking for an equal enemy. The horseman himself took out his artifact. He held it out in front of him and asked if they could pierce through his shield. The old men were furious. They directed their magic in the form of rings at the horse. The cat immediately recognized this magic. It was a technique of conjuring poisonous mist and stunning gaze. It was the reason why he almost died. The man deflected the attack with his shield. The old man was angry that his student's technique didn't work. The second old man had lightning flashing from his eyes and a shield formed in front of him. The cat warned that things were bad. All the monsters from the mountain were under hypnosis. Xiaohei himself twirled his tails. Luoli recognized that the golden-eyed old man's technique was stronger than the silver-eyed man's technique. The man used his shield to prevent the attack, and after inhaling the poisonous mist, the old men were shocked that he had done this, and he was nothing. The horse inhaled the mist and fairly wiped his mouth. The old men, seeing this, decided to run away. The man threw his artifact at them. The shield caught up with them and engulfed the old men, then returned again to the master. The cat asked the horse what would happen to the snakes. The horse turned the shield toward Xiaohei and asked what he wanted to do with them. The artifact had one silver snake and the other gold. The kitty, covered in a red glow, was eager to take revenge on his enemies, but folding his paws in a friendly manner, he said that the man had the last word. The sword-wielding horse threw its shield directly towards the cat and told it to take revenge. Xiaohei happily released his claws and jumped at the artifact. But the cat didn't succeed, it didn't have enough strength. Then the horse grabbed two snakes, stretched and bit off the golden one. Chewing the golden snake, told that there was too little meat. The taste was so-so and a little poisonous. In general, he was not tasty. The three monsters stood back and watched the horse. They were alarmed that the black horse was ruthless and were glad to be treated respectfully. The kitty swallowed and wanted to try it too, so he asked the man for permission. The horse took the silver snake and broke it into two pieces. He threw one to Xiaohei, but warned him that it might be too poisonous for him. They almost killed him. So the seal, holding the snake in his paws, said that if he didn't taste their flesh and blood, it would be hard for him to get rid of his hatred. The man replied to him that since the kitty was so determined, he promised to give up his shield when he finished the snake. Xiaohei bowed low to his comrade and thanked him. But the man didn't like it. Kicking the cat, he said that he could only kneel before his master. Luo Li, watching him, laughed and admitted that the black big horse and the black little cat were an amazing duo. The master ordered to stop entertaining himself because he felt someone was approaching. A sword flew from the sky, straight at Mo Xiang. The guy was able to dodge the weapon at the last moment, and then looked in the direction from where the sword came from and asked who it was. The sword returned to its owner with magic. The unknown man stopped it near him, and then ordered him to give him all his treasures. Luo Li looked in his direction. The guy didn't see the patriarch, but she didn't understand how he knew they had treasures. The girl pretended that she didn't understand what treasures he was talking about. The unknown man was confused and called for his master. The heroine realized that there was someone hiding behind the guy. She put out her sword and directed a pink beam of energy. It hit the umbrella that the old man and the girl were hiding behind. The girl in the purple outfit was angry at the guy for revealing her and the teacher in a word. The guy, scratching the back of his head awkwardly, promised to be more careful next time. The unknown girl loomed over the brother and sister and grudgingly said that her teacher had sensed treasures from them that could transmit energy and stamina for a long time. The girl defiantly demanded to give them back. Luo Li guessed that these guys mistook the dragon blood and essence in their bodies for treasures. Mo Xiang, smiling in a friendly manner, said that they couldn't do that. The girl's teacher intervened in the conversation. The old man, stroking his beard, defiantly asked the guy not to be so confident. He said that they were planning to spare them if they obediently handed over the treasure, since they didn't have a Taoist protector with them. But Mo Xiang prepared to attack. The unknown men were not confused and agreed to take the treasure by force. The old man towered over his disciples who were ready to engage in battle, and promised that they would see firsthand what their secret sacred bird sect was capable of. The old man ordered the girl and the guy to take the lives of Luo Li and Mo Xiang, but the guy asked them to wait. The man had already gloatingly decided that the guys would beg for mercy. Mo Xiang replied that his sword didn't razz the stranger, so he asked who they were and where they were from. The unfamiliar girl called him insolent. The guy proudly replied that they were from the Tianyue dynasty Blackbird sect. But the brother and sister were confused. They didn't know about such a sect. The girl, calling them rednecks, explained that the small Shenfeng dynasty they were in was only the lesser of the imperial dynasties. The three major dynasties were Tianji, Tianyue, and Tianxing. Their mystic bird sect was one of the four sects of the Tianyue dynasty. Mo Xiang patted her and thanked her for the dynasty's course. The guy quickly switched from pleasantries to threats and attacked the sect. A huge monster appeared behind him. Luo Li chased after her brother. A powerful stream of energy erupted from her sword straight at the old man and his disciples. But suddenly, dark lines of magic formed around the brother and sister, trapping them. This was the technique of the mysterious bird, the best in the sect. The old man snidely asked the guys how they were going to win. Luo Li and Mo Shang only had to attack. The guy summoned Qinglong. A blue dragon came to their aid. It attacked the black bird that had trapped them. The guy and the girl attacked the sister and brother once more. Mo Xiang called out to the girl to follow the dragon, but Luo Li angrily replied that their worlds were higher than them. The blue dragon opened its mouth and swallowed the black bird. Magic burst out of it. Curved lines of lightning struck directly at the girl and the guy. The power of the energy made them fly away. The girl from the bird sect shouted menacingly to the guy that they would apply the mysterious yin-yang bird. A black bird and a white bird appeared in the sky in front of the dragon and formed a yin-yang bird. A blue lightning sparkling ball formed in the sky. The girl and the guy painfully landed on the ground in front of Luo Li and Mo Xiang. The sect girl's mouth was bleeding. She told her brother that they had lost. Mo Xiang approached her and told her that if he was not touched, he would not touch anyone either, but he would kill the attackers on the spot. Luo Li's brother swung his sword and shouted that the one who comes with a sword will be killed by the sword. He wanted to kill the girl, but suddenly he was prevented by an old man. He threw the sword away from his disciple with his hand. Mo Xiang was displeased by this, but the old man said that he had already won, called them puppets, and suggested that their teacher must be somewhere nearby. So the old man of the sect ordered them to call the master to teach him good manners. Luo Li smugly asked if he could handle their teacher. The old man became furious and wanted to attack the girl, but he was stopped by Ye Yun. He threw energy at him, and the old man looked at his hands and thought in horror why his strength had dropped from the 10th fate world to the 10th level of the nirvana world. The old man ran at the master in a frenzy, but Ye Yun directed more energy at him. The man stopped and shouted angrily that he had been robbed of his cultivation base. His disciples stared at him in astonishment. Ye Yun said that he had deprived him of his cultivation, but kept him alive, so ordered him to hide from his sight. But the old man was stubborn. He wasn't going to leave, angrily accusing the master of depriving him of his cultivation and preventing him from killing two talentless people. Ye Yun was fed up with this. He directed energy at him. The man groaned, and all that was left of him was a green ring. Mo Shang grabbed it and said that he would take it with him. He clenched it in his fist and decided that it was already possible to disperse. But the guy and girl didn't want to leave and confidently said that they would fight. They flew upwards in the form of birds, forming a yin and yang. Mo Xiang, wary of them, told his sister that they had had enough of living. They launched 2 blue dragons at them, and the guy and girl fell unconscious. Mo Xiang looked at the guys with regret, for they didn't even think that they would die here. Luo Li replied to him that if their patriarch hadn't helped them by turning the old man into an ordinary mortal, they would be lying on the ground. The guy told his sister that he had examined the ring with his divine knowledge. There was a fate-level sealed item in the ring. He asked his sister to clean the ring. He wanted her to open it when they reached the world of destiny. He was sure there would be something good there. Suddenly, the girl noticed Ye Yun coming down to them. She decided to ask him if he had ever heard of the mystic bird sect. The man said that out of all the sects, this one was one of the smaller sects. He didn't think that not only would their descendants not recognize the dragon sect's sword technique, but they would also call themselves a holy sect. The guy was amazed that the ancestor remembered this sect, and admitted that he wouldn't be surprised if the master still remembered some ancient small sects. But Ye Yun admitted that he remembered this sect because it was the sect that had often sent him women back in the day. By this, he was extremely impressed. Mo Shang blushed all red. Luo Li was gloomy. The sect thought that Ye Yun was a ladies' man, so they sent women. But he didn't care about that and sent them back. Now the master was embarrassed that his brother and sister had misunderstood him. Suddenly, the ancestor was called by the horse and his companions. They were avenging the cat. All the business was done, and Ye Yun decided that it was okay to leave already. The girl approached the man with the cat in his arms and said that they had to use dragons in battle, and he never showed up. The horse explained that it was necessary to temper them. He couldn't intervene without permission, but was able to instantly fly in when the fight was over to help. Luo Li laughed and turned her attention to the cat. It was lying in the man's arms, looking painful. So the girl asked what was wrong with the cat. The man told her that Xiao had eaten a poisonous snake. The guys were shocked. Luo Li offered her cleansing pill. But the horse seriously said that the kitty could handle this poison on its own. Xiao had eaten half of the snake with the Fate World, so he was digesting it now. The girl turned to the patriarch, but he agreed with the horse. Since there was a thunder pool here, it should help the guys with cultivation. The master threw a blue capsule at the guys. The capsule hit the head and went inside. The ancestor said they should refine their blood and dragon essence. The guys obeyed. Cat, Luo Li, and Mo Shang sat in the lotus posture and enhanced their cultivation. 3 days later, Xiaohei joyfully burst out of the glow. He was able to reach the Fate World and was happy about it. The cat was carried straight into the golden energy stream. But the thunderstorm was very strong and the cat couldn't handle it. He was electrocuted. Xiaohei landed painfully on the ground. He was completely exhausted. The sixth wave of the thunderstorm was several times stronger, so the cat thought that he would be finished. But Ye Yun came to his rescue in time. The lightning was still striking near Xiaohei. The cat was lying down scared, covering himself with his paws. The master angrily chased the thunderstorm away and it evaporated. The cat thanked him for his help. The man told the cat that his thunderstorm disaster was not complete. His physical body was not strong enough. So he decided to create a suitable thunderstorm for him himself. From his hand, he threw a bright golden lightning bolt at the cat. Xiaohei was enveloped by the bright glow. He accepted it and confidently stood on all paws. The horse in the guise of a man sat with his monsters. The giant was amazed that the master had manually filled the cat's body with thunder tribulation. The leopard was shocked as well. This was the first time he had seen such a thing. The man mockingly assumed that the kitty was about to crack up and start crying. That's exactly what happened. Xiaohei tearfully thanked the master. The master told him not to cry, but to better strengthen his world. The cat agreed and jumped into the water. The horse blushed, came up and asked for the same lightning bolt, for he was sure that Ye Yun was capable of giving out a discharge 100 times stronger than the one the cat got. Ye Yun didn't refuse and pointed the lightning bolt at the horse. The man accepted it and sat in the lotus posture, meditating. Suddenly, the bird noticed that the golden thunder from the man was growing. All the animals decided to accept it too to evolve. Ye Yun rose above them and watched. Their breakthrough was just around the corner. After a few days, everyone woke up with increased levels. Suddenly, they heard a voice asking where the two saints of Mount Jile were. The voice said that it was waiting for them at the Shenfeng dynasty's main gate. The giant and the leopard were stunned. The horse turned to his beasts and asked them to greet the guest, for they knew how to do that. The giant immediately agreed. The leopard assumed that it was people from the sects coming to take revenge, but he felt that there was no one stronger than the Nirvana world among them, and they were able to reach the Fate Worlds with Ye Yun's help. This was how they hoped to repay the Lord for his kindness. Luoli ordered the three of them to go, and they had to rest and gain strength before traveling. The bird, the leopard, and the giant flew upwards. There was a whole army waiting for them in the sky. The giant asked the man why they had brought so many people from the three great sects here. The guy replied that they were looking for those responsible for killing the disciples of their sects. The giant got angry, accusing them of provoking them, shouting that they would pay for it. The men began to defend themselves, forming a shield around them, one of them urging the giant to come to his senses, for he was going against the three great sects. The leopard reached their ball and shattered it with his paw. The monster roared menacingly and directed his magic at the humans. Following him, the bird started attacking. It killed several people with its tail. The monsters fought fiercely and mercilessly. After they killed everyone, headed back to the guys. Lazy landed next to Luo Li and asked how it had performed. The girl petted it and praised the bird. The giant, watching the bird caress the girl, disapproved of such a thing. The horse coughed and caught the attention of the giant and the leopard. They sat down on their knees and asked if their brother was pleased. The man replied that everything had gone fine. The leopard said in a panic that they may not have been strong, but they were ready to follow him for the rest of their lives. The leopard was ready to carry tea to him. The man, blushing and waving his hand at him, replied that he was only pulling a carriage. What tea could we talk about? But leopard huffed even harder and said that he really wanted to follow him. But Mo Xiang intervened in the conversation, laughing. He confirmed that the horse was only carrying the carriage, which was standing aside. The leopard and the giant were completely shocked. Their brother horse had an eternity world, and he was just carrying a carriage for them. But the guy approached them and asked them not to be upset. After all, he and his sister could use some spirit protectors. Suwani anxiously reminded the guys that they had a 7th level divine bridge after training, and that demon had a fate world. But the giant and the leopard hastily decided to assure the girl that they would protect the masters. Luoli asked her not to worry, because the black horse appreciated the monsters at face value, and they also had bracelets that the patriarch had issued to them. Remembering about the bracelets, Luoli asked the master if he would give Su Wanyi a bracelet as well. The man covered his eyes, concentrated, and a golden bracelet appeared on the girl's arm. The girl looked around him in surprise. The man rather noticed that Luo Li's honesty and straightforwardness was looking more and more like a leader. The girl stroking the bird happily told her brother and sister that she already had Lei Zi, Lei Hu, and Lei Nu, and the two she was giving to them. But Su Wanyi had only reached the 8th layer of the god-becoming world. She was worried that the difference between them was even greater. The guy reassured her by saying that if she didn't want to rely on the beasts for everything, the beasts could sit in the magic bracelet and train. It was possible to keep them out without a dire need. Suwani, still unsure, agreed. Looking at her bracelet, she admitted that she still didn't know how to use it. The brother volunteered to show his sister how it worked. Using his bracelet, he released the energy on the giant. The beast hung there helplessly. The capture was successful, and inside this bracelet, the beast constrained the girl stood in shock. She stood in front of the frightened ducking leopard and decided to give it a try. Su Wanyi tried her bracelet. The capture was successful. The girl was delighted after all. She had not even dreamed that she would get a spiritual beast of the destiny world. Luo Li proposed to go on the road. The master said that first they had to get the stones out of the way, but suddenly they heard an angry voice. The girl assumed that the disciples were sending messages to the sect before they died, and now 4 cultivators from the Fate world had come to take revenge on them. The horse, lazily scratching his ear, suggested the beasts to deal with them. The monsters were under the effect of the bracelet, but the guys summoned them. Luo Li ordered them to kill the 4 cultivators with the Fate world, who were sent by the 3 great sects. The beasts flew to fulfill the order. The guy doubtfully asked if the 3 beasts could handle the 4 cultivators, because even if they found the mountain, they would still lose when facing a superior force. One of the cultivators shouted to the monsters to come out and meet their death. The beasts were at the ready. Tiger asked why he was calling them out, thus rushing to face the king of the underworld. The cultivator attacked the beast in a frenzy. Beams of energy flew straight at the tiger. But the giant got into the fight. He shouted that he was unworthy to fight Brother Hu, so he volunteered to be his opponent. The giant repelled the attack by forming a shield around him. The cultivator didn't care and agreed to start his revenge on him specifically. The giant clenched his hand into a fist and pounced on the guy, throwing many punches. Tiger wanted to help his comrade, but 2 cultivators stood in his way. The beast opened its jaws and directed its energy at them. The men surrounded themselves with a protective sphere and shouted that it was a pathetic trick. The tiger's attack was beating against their defenses. One of the cultivators decided to show off his technique. Swinging, he let loose a powerful stream of magic. There was an explosion. But the tiger was still conscious and saw a flicker of green glow in front of him. Several curved lines of lightning burst out from that point and nailed the beast to the ground. Leze was also suffering defeat. An attack flew into his wing, the giant defending himself as best he could. The tiger was lying on the ground when the dust from its strike subsided. Saw 2 cultivators in front of it. The beast sadly thought that it was still weak to fight several elders. The 2 men approached the tiger with a gloating face. They said that if he surrendered, his death would be quick and almost painless. But the tiger rose to his paws and replied that he would never surrender. The man raised his staff and said that he had never heard of the divine dragon sect. Suddenly, the man's face changed from gloatingly defeated to frightened. The horse stood behind him, his hand going all the way through the cultivator where his heart was. The man with an angry face said that he didn't want to interfere, but his words about the sect had made him so angry that not even the Lord God could save him. Another cultivator turned to them and shouted fearfully that the man they didn't know was only on the Nirvana world, so he couldn't understand how he managed to attack them. Suddenly, the horse switched to him, grabbing his staff. The cultivator squealed that he couldn't use his magic weapon, so he perplexedly asked who he was. The gray-haired man broke the staff and asked to be called Grandpa Horse. The other cultivators guessed that he definitely didn't have the Nirvana world. They didn't think they'd run into someone with that kind of strength here, so they decided to make a quick escape. But the horse didn't let them get away. White streaks appeared from his mouth. He wrapped them around the men's necks and started pulling them towards him. And then he ate them. The horse, chewing them, said that the taste was already better than snakes, but the meat was too tough. The man turned to the beast and said that he had planned to let them gain more experience at first. But he didn't think a suicide bomber would offend their sect, so he didn't hold back. But the beasts were still too weak, so they might die without his help. The monsters knelt down in front of him and thanked him. The man grabbed one of the cultivators by the scruff of the neck and told them that they didn't need to bow before him like that, then ordered them to return, and he planned to take the cultivator to the master. The beasts, as they watched the figure of the horseman moving farther and farther away, were delighted with him. The man arrived at Ye Yun's place and showed the cultivator. The guy anxiously asked what they wanted from him. Luoli shouted at him that he was not allowed to open his mouth, and asked if he realized that they had gone against the dragon sect. The cultivator was completely shocked that they really were from the divine dragon sect. The horse angrily ordered him not to pretend like he really didn't know about the sect. The master put his palm forward from where the magic began to shoot out, and grudgingly said that he would first see if there was anything useful in the guy's head. A beam of magic went straight into the cultivator's forehead, and a disgruntled voice was heard asking who was the head of the dragon sect that had raised a hand against the gods. When the master looked everything over, the guy was confused that this man had seen everything. The horseman slapped him on the back. The horseman turned to the ancestor and suggested to visit the Shenheng sect. But Yeyun shook his head negatively, because even the top elders of this sect knew very little about the persecution of their sect and assumed that the sect head was a pawn. But the ancestor wondered who had planned all this 100,000 years in advance and completely suppressed the divine dragon sect. Mo Xiang was surprised that there was something the patriarch didn't know. But Luo Li pounced on her brother menacingly and started shouting that the master was allowing them to evolve to resurrect the sect. The boy crouched down, covering his head in fear. He admitted that he didn't have the wisdom and intelligence to think things through and look this far. The horse noticed that the girl had become wise, so their sect revival was not far off, but the master was frowning. Yeyun had another reason besides the one El Li gave. He had spent 100,000 years alone, so he needed to make up for lost time. The life tokens that were left behind by the elders cracked. In the Shenheng sect, there were 5 people gathered in a meeting. One of them informed the others that he had told someone higher up the news. These people decided to wait it out and see what would happen next. The rest of the sect members were not happy about it. Suddenly a man appeared to them and said that someone had come through the gate in the mountains. The guys were scared that it might have been the beasts of Mount Zele, but the panting man said that it was not beasts, but humans. In this sect without elders, there was one man who had reached the middle of the fate world. This man was confident that he could handle it. He asked how many people were there and guessed 100 since they were able to pass through the gate. But this question was answered by the intruders themselves. Luo Li, Mo Xiang, and Su Wanyi appeared before them. All the men drew their swords and pounced on the boys. Luo Li asked her brother and sister to be careful, because there were a whole bunch of enemies. The brother confidently replied that nothing would happen to him, and asked Sister Su to be careful because there were more than 100 people with the divine bridge world here. The girl obeyed her brother and promised that she would try her best. After all, this test was given to them by the patriarch. But suddenly, the girl was attacked. Luo Li had already worriedly called out to her, but Su Wanyi used her bracelet and summoned a tiger. The beast came out of the bracelet and started to defend its mistress. The girl was not happy that she lost the argument to the patriarch. One of the men holding a two-handed sword noticed that the girl had summoned one of the beasts of the mountains. He was surprised that a girl of the 8th level of the world of becoming a god was able to subdue it. Another opponent jumped out, pointing his finger at the guys, shouting to everyone that they were the ones who killed their brothers in the Thunder Pool, and they were also involved in the death of the elder. The men all swooped down to avenge their own, but Luo Li and Mo Xiang unleashed their blue dragon on them. The men bounced back. All the guys were shocked. The chief grudgingly asked his subordinates what happened. One of the injured men said that his level suddenly dropped to the 1st level of nirvana. But the man saw that his man was still at level 5 and decided that the trio had some kind of magical weapon. It meant nothing to him anyway because his sect had over 10 million disciples. He planned to crush them with quantity and ordered his men to attack. A huge number of people flew at the guys, all directing their magic at them. Yeyun was sitting with his eyes closed. Suddenly magic penetrated into the heads of the 2 guys standing next to him, and they went forward like will-less puppets. The person in charge noticed this and shouted to them that there were already enough guys, but there was an authoritative voice in his head that said that there weren't enough. Because there couldn't be enough people for the trial, Yeyun finished reading this main man's memories, so he ordered to go to the others. The man obeyed. The horse and carriage stood on the clouds. They watched the battle. The horse still couldn't believe that the master would agree to an argument with the sect head. The gist of the argument was this. As long as none of the boys accidentally summoned a conquered beast, the patriarch would not intervene. But the master still took pity on them and helped them in advance. He made the world of all enemies that engaged in battle with them temporarily fall to their level. But Yeyun said that Shenheng sect's people were still too weak, so he didn't even want to look at it and flew upwards. He approached the tower. In the Shenheng sect, patriarch's mind was this inheritance tower, so the patriarch hoped to find something useful there. The man stepped on the road and started to approach the tower. Suddenly, a blindfolded man came out to him. He pounced on the intruder, but the master quickly turned the man into dust without any movement. But the ancestor was dissatisfied that his heaven-dissecting eye had not yet reached a perfect form. Yeyun wanted to reach the world of exaltation, above the 1,000 illusions. But to reach it, he had to pass the true God world completely. He was also attacked on the 1st floor, The master also quickly dealt with it. The same thing happened again on the second floor, so he reached the ninth floor. Upon reaching it, the ancestor found nothing interesting. The guards of this tower seemed too boring or cautious. In front of him was an artifact surrounded by a green glow. There were 9 seals. But they didn't stop the man. He took the box. Opening it, Ye Yun was surprised to see manuscripts that only eternity-level sects were capable of creating. Heaven-level sects were unable to do such a thing. The purpose of the Shenheng, Shenfeng, and Henshin sect was to follow the Divine Dragon sect and keep it at bay, to watch over it for thousands of years until 300 generations had passed in the sect. After that, the head of the Shengen sect could use the Jade token to enter the secret world of Tianyue. When the head would bring the Jade token to the heavenly laurel tree, he would receive an unimaginable reward. Ye Yun was interested in this. He had been striving for immortality for 100 years, and was now willing to play with them. He decided that once they had dealt with the Shenheng sect, then they would need to set a course for the Tianyue dynasty. The man flew out of the tower and stopped among the clouds to watch the boys battle. They stood back to back, surrounded by opponents. They had used everything the patriarch had given them. They had slaughtered at least half of the sect, but had never leveled up. But Luo Li cried out that the higher the world, the harder it was to level up. But she felt that their sister Su was already close. Su Wanyi herself also felt that way. But the enemies were stronger. Mo Xiang assumed that it was a gift from the patriarch and launched an attack on the enemies. The girls flew upwards, surrounded by their magic, and Su Wanyi suddenly felt that she had increased her level. She had reached the 9th level of the God-becoming world. Su Wanyi was so happy with her promotion that she didn't notice anything around her. Suddenly, her sister and brother alerted that there was someone behind the girl. A man was bearing down on her, but something fast black saved the girl. A black cat came to Su's rescue. The cat was very confident, but suddenly he was struck by lightning. Xiaohei frightenedly called a horse for help. The horse came to him and said that his master's protection would be enough. Xu Wanyi laughed at them. Ye Yun stood aside. Suddenly he felt someone approaching them. 2 people on a red bird were rushing towards their fellow Shenheng sects. The 2 brothers had come to help the Shenheng sect, but they thought that Shenheng was attacked by the Demon Realm sect. But suddenly one of them looked closely and said that they were some cultivators. They were also surprised that the sect leader was fighting with his subordinates. But the redhead noticed that the trio's peace wasn't high, but didn't understand how they were holding back the attacks of 10,000 disciples. The other brother noticed the corpses, so he warned his brother that there was something wrong here. The sect cultivators were exhausted but fought as if they were being controlled by something. The redhead assumed that the trio were pawns backed by the Demon Realm clan, and they had joined the fight. Luo Li spotted the 2 and informed everyone that reinforcements had arrived. Mo Xiang was confused. After all, they might not be able to cope with such opponents. Magic flew at them, but the guys were surrounded by a lotus-shaped sect. Luo Li happily spotted a horse in the sky. Luckily, they had a male horse that could deal with them, and they could continue fighting the sect. The man started to approach the 2 brothers while they were confused as to why their sword energy was missing. The horse had already landed on the bird to them, yawning, listening to their conversations, but then he called out to them. The boys panicked and wanted to run away. One of the brothers turned to the horse and started talking about peace with the demon clan, but the man didn't understand what he was talking about, and promised that the Shenheng sect was over. The horseman came to avenge his mistress, and lightning bolts burst out of his eyes and exploded. The only thing left of the brothers were the rings. The man decided to give them to the cat. He threw them to Xiaohei, and the cat happily took them quickly. The horse appeared at the carriage where Ye Yun was sitting and reported that he had gotten rid of the lowlifes. To the master, they were weaklings from the Tianheng sect, so he suggested that the horse check on them on his way to the Tianyue dynasty. The forefathers sat and meditated. He still had time before Luo Li and Mo Xiang reached the next level. Watching the guys was boring to him, so he decided to improve himself. 3 hours later, the guys were still surrounded by enemies and were unable to increase their levels. At this rate, they could outbid the entire sect. The sister asked her brother to keep his cool. A golden shield suddenly appeared below them. A dragon appeared from it. Mo Xiang shouted happily that it was finally accomplished. They raised their levels. Su Wanyi congratulated her brother and sister. The guys had defeated the Shenheng sect. Their revenge had been accomplished. The guys were overjoyed. Mo Xiang suddenly turned to the cat and laughed out loud. The girls turned unhappily at him, thinking that he was laughing at the gods. But the guy quickly pointed at the cat. The girls looked at him and laughed too. Xiaohei sat with an important look with the rings. The cat only wanted to help them collect the loot after the battle. Luo Li stroked the cat's head and thanked him. Suddenly, Mo Xiang remembered something about the loot, but he couldn't remember what exactly. A silence hung. Suddenly, Luo Li remembered about the treasury and the secret scroll of the Shengheng sect, Ye Yun, and the horse came down to them, just at this moment. The guys were excited. They were sure that there was a lot of interesting things there. Shu Wanyi reminded the guys that the treasuries and training rooms were sealed. Luo Li and Mo Xiang were disappointed by this. But Ye Yun glumly replied that there was nothing complicated to break the seal, so he ordered the treasury to open. Lots of sundry things rushed out from there, and the master asked the guys what they wanted. Luo Li, Mo, and Shang noticed that the master had gotten stronger. He used to be able to summon magic with his hands, but now a glance was enough. The girl asked what kind of magic it was. The man replied that it was an eye splitting the heavens, was not of their sect. The girl was upset. Suddenly, the horse wanted to try it too. The master allowed it. The eye-splitting heaven was divided into 3 levels: primary, middle, and profound. The primary was suitable for people below the true God world. Divided into 9 layers, Ye Yun threw lightning bolts at his disciples' eyes and warned them that they would have to try harder than usual. The master himself had finished comprehending the middle level, and he would only be able to reach the peak of the eye after the true God King world. The boys were shocked that their patriarch was so strong. The ancestor promised them that they would start comprehending the technique on their way home. Luo Li decided to split the treasure in half. They planned to dismantle it when a free moment came up so as not to postpone the trip. The unknown man stood beside a red energy stream that descended directly from the sky. It was the immortal lands of red dust. The man moved his hand closer to the stream and a hole appeared from that place. People with a world above the world of becoming a god could not enter there, but those who were lower could cultivate there. So he ordered his disciples to go there, and everyone rushed straight into the stream. The man ordered to kill a blood demon to obtain the bloodthirsty beast pills. Suddenly he saw a carriage nearby. He couldn't see the horse world, and decided that the people in the carriage were even stronger. Luo Li went out first. They arrived at the land of red dust, and felt a heavy energy here. Brother also felt an unpleasant feeling. They had arrived to train, so all 3 of them flew into the red energy flow. Su Wan passed through easily, but Luo Li and Mo Xiang were not let in by the flow, even though the guys had lowered their levels before. The man who brought his disciples here to train heard their conversation and said that the red dust earth could not be fooled. The brother and sister thanked him. The wagon master called the guys back to the wagon and continued cultivating. Ye Yun frowned and suspiciously remarked that there was nothing like this 100,000 years ago. In the deepest depths of the red dust immortal lands, a red coffin opened up, a hand emerged from it, and the person inside the coffin was confused that he could feel Ye Yun's breath. Su Wanyi chopped the demon with the 7-star dragon abyss, but it was so survivable that its heart was still twitching. From there, she retrieved the bloodthirsty beast pills. One such was equivalent to 10 days of training. So the girl was not surprised that everyone was crowding here. But Su hadn't seen anyone since she entered the stream. The lands of blood dust were very large, and she decided to focus on collecting pills. Suddenly, she heard someone calling for help. A guy was fighting demons. The girl saved him by chopping the demons with her sword. The guy thanked her, but it wasn't hard for the girl since she was still collecting pills. The guy told her that he had chopped up a blood demon, but both parts of it had turned into separate demons. But suddenly his attention was drawn to her sword. He guessed that Su's sword suppressed the demon's regeneration. The guy wanted this sword for himself, and decided that he and the people from the Red Flame Sword Sect could team up and get this sword. He took the remains of the demon with his ring, and decided to show these corpses to the others as proof. Su Wanyi flew further to kill the demons. Suddenly she noticed a large blood demon that had devoured the man. She chopped it up and found the dead man's belongings and the ring. While the girl was examining the ring, some guys flew after her. Several of the men came down to her. The guy she saved showed his comrades the sword that chopped demons. Everyone really liked the blade. Su Wanyi was disappointed that she saved a man from death, and he repaid her like this. She asked what sect he was from. The guys answered her. They were from the Red Flame Sword Sect, and then pounced on the girl. Su swung and cut all the guys in half. One was still alive and asked to be spared, but the girl plunged her sword right into his head. Su Wanyi was angry and felt if she killed a couple more demons, she would reach the divine bridge world. Suddenly, she heard a voice. The girl abruptly turned around and saw symbols in the sky. A message came to her that anyone who reached the divine bridge stage had to go to the bloody battlefield, and whoever killed the most demons could get a reward. Su Wanyi quickly turned around and flew to the battlefield. Ye Yun also heard a voice in the girl's mind. It seemed familiar to him. Right above the cart, a golden boat was rushing over. The cat immediately recognized it as the sect, the Red Flame Sword Sect. The horse admitted that they had ruined his mood. The sect had ordered his newly arrived disciples to go to the Red Dust Lands, and everyone immediately flew there. Suddenly, the Sword Sect chief started threatening the wagon. Kotick asked the horse for permission to deal with him. The horse gave permission quickly because people were breaking in droves. Xiaohei abruptly flew into the attack. The men were frightened that a civet with 9 lives was approaching them, and was also a level 3 Fate Realm demon. The kitty landed to them and laughed, but suddenly he was electrocuted. He was punished by the horse for the kitty talking a lot. Xiaohei apologized for talking a lot and getting carried away. He was just too cocky. The horse forgave his comrade this time, and pulled the boat to himself, later deciding to give it to the sect head. After a while, the black horse noticed that there were more and more boats. One boat belonged to the great royal family sect. The other belonged to the Tianheng sect of the Zhongping family. The cat was surprised that another great sect had arrived, but the horse explained to him the sects were divided into 5 categories: ordinary, great, great, heavenly, and eternal. Each category was divided into 4 levels: lowest, middle, highest, and highest. The people got out of the boats, and the cat was disappointed that an ordinary old man was leading a squad in the realm of life and death after all. He thought the team would be stronger. Suddenly, golden rays began to appear from all directions. It was another great sect that had arrived. Suddenly, the head old man flew straight at them. The horse ordered the cat to deal with him. As Xiaohei flew, he excitedly felt that the fight would be unequal. But his master would be watching, and he must not let him down. As he got closer, Xiaohei ordered the man not to come any closer. The old man was unhappy that a little demon with a small level got in his way. But the cat was angry, putting up a shield in front of him, promising that if the man took a single step, he would not spare him. The men were interested in his item. They all flew to steal the artifact from the cat. The old man guessed their plan. As the men flew, they shouted that the artifact should be in the hands of those who are stronger. The cat looked at them slyly and mentally urged them to start fighting. For when these cultivators with the life and death world began to battle, he could take advantage of it. But Yeyun, who was sitting in the carriage, frowned, thinking that these cultivators should not perish because they were destined to become fertilizer for the rising masters of their sect in the future. Therefore, the master ordered the horse to make the men leave. The black horse immediately flew to fulfill the order. He loomed over all the men. He used a spell on them that isolated their powers from the outside world. The horse was angry. He didn't want to hurt them, so he asked them to leave. All the men recognized him. They were scared and promised that they were leaving already. The seal was delighted by his comrade's strength. Suddenly, a pillar of golden light appeared right in front of him. Xiaohei felt that this stream of energy was much larger than the previous ones. He assumed that it was a heavenly sect. People appeared in front of them. All of them were at the level of the middle of the eternity world, a heavenly sect. The head of the new sect noticed that there were many small sects here, and also noticed the Fate World cat and the horse that hid its cultivation. He became curious as to who might be in the carriage. Xiaohei dumbfoundedly felt a strong perception, but promised that he would not flinch at anything. Suddenly, the cat glanced at those people. One of them noticed his gaze, and saw something in it that could affect the mind. Therefore, he threw his clawed paw of magic at Xiaohei. The old man and the people who wanted to attack the cat and the horse decided that the sect was headed for death. The man's attack was thwarted by the horse. It was very angry, and if not for its master, it would have killed the man. The man who attacked was frightened by the power of the horse, that he was the power of eternity. But he didn't realize what he was doing here. The enemy backed up when the black horse came at him. But the horse, sporting a friendly smile, asked the man why he was raring to fight, and promised that when the girl from his sect returned from the world of red dust, they would leave. The man haughtily replied that since that was the case, the horse could ride away and wait there. The cat stood up for his friend. He didn't like the way the man was talking to his brother, but the man was self-confident because he was from the heavenly sect. Suddenly, the horse went wild. He was all exuding magic. But the master ordered him to calm down. Yeyun got out of the carriage and approached them, recognizing that this man's insolence surprised him as well. All the gathered men were shocked that there was someone else in the wagon. The master wanted to ask the sect head why his disciple was so rude. A powerful electric stream of energy erupted from Yeyun's palm, and several people fell to the ground from it. The old man grabbed his head and unhappily shouted where they were and why here. They really wanted to know who had brought them here. In the sky, everyone noticed a wizard with a huge amount of lightning sparking around him. Yeyun was looming menacingly above them. The ancestor waved his hand and everyone was pierced with pain. The master voiced his dissatisfaction that the heavenly sect disciples lacked wisdom or cultivation, and asked the chief how to deal with him. The elder bowed low before Yeyun and promised that his disciple would spend the rest of his life in Zongman's cell. But the master decided to send him straight to the underworld himself. He threw lightning at the guy, the disciple screamed. But the ancestor did not listen to him and sent him to hell. When it was over, everyone turned to look in shock. Ye Yun angrily ordered everyone to go back to where they came from. With his magic, he sent the head of the heavenly sect back and erased the other people's memories. But another celestial sect was approaching them because the red dust lands were attracting a lot of attention. Ye Yun left back to the wagon that continued to cultivate again. The cat was curious how their mistress was doing there. The master began to meditate again and watched Su Wanyi. In front of her stood a young man. He was from the celestial sect and assured that they never cheat people. So he asked the girl to tell him how much her sword was worth. The girl, surrounded by a pink flow of magic, answered him that it wasn't for sale, but promised to think about it if he defeated her. She rushed at them. The other guy nervously asked how she learned to wield her sword like that. But Su Wanyi replied to everything saying that if they defeated her, she would show everything. The two dragons, one blue and the other pink, clashed. The guy was a heavenly sect disciple, but he was furious that he couldn't defeat the girl. Su noticed that the enemy had decided to fight hard, so without the dragon technique, it would be difficult for her to win. Suddenly, a powerful dragon appeared behind the girl. The guy was shocked. Su Wanyi's energy flow went through the enemy. The girl killed it and happily noticed that she had become stronger. She had now reached the divine bridge world. Suddenly, she was teleported. She immediately guessed that she was in a bloody battlefield. She looked at the battle and saw a large number of blood demons. The girl decided to continue collecting pills and getting stronger. She rushed to the battlefield to help the guys who were fighting the demons. Su mercilessly cut everyone in half. The guys thanked her and thought she was from the heavenly sect. Su Wanyi was killing more and more demons and suddenly felt that there was something wrong with this blood mist. She suddenly noticed that the people around her had a bright red glow from their eyes. The girl was confused by the situation and decided to leave. Su flew upwards. The men stood in confusion. They suddenly had a strong desire to kill the girl. But the sect disciples were even glad that she had left. The girl flew farther and farther away from that place. All this happened after the demon exploded. Suddenly in her head, she heard someone's voice again. Just in front of her, a building appeared. The girl decided that the owner of the voice was there. The unknown girl in red was disappointed that the strongest master, the incomparable genius, could die. She rose from the wooden bed and used magic to transport herself to the place where the red bloody vapor was coming from. A man greeted the mistress. The girl asked him how the second stage was going. The servant said that everything was going according to plan. Many cultivators had reached the divine bridge. She approached the bloody place and breathed in its vapors. But finding nothing, she tiredly walked out of it. The man was agitated and said that perhaps the person she was looking for was no longer alive. The girl abruptly turned around and slapped him. The man apologized, kneeling down. An image of Su Wanyi appeared in front of the lady. The girl heard her voice. The woman in red felt an unusual amulet on Su, and she could also see their palace, so she ordered the servant to direct her to the Dengxian road. The unknown woman in red was returning to her coffin, but something stopped her. She fell to the ground, surrounded by a powerful bloody energy. Something was spinning out of control. It was as if her whole body was splitting in two. Suddenly, some man in a fancy outfit appeared. A shard of the girl's unaccustomed soul had been trying all along to contain him, but it sent him into oblivion. The sky swooped over him, screaming that only he deserved to inherit the treasures of the Dragon Blood Palace. A hooded man stood on a cloud in the sky. Humans to him were a bunch of bugs to be fodder on his way to becoming a god. The girl was being chased by the sectarians. Suddenly, a ladder that led up into the mountains appeared in front of her. The man also saw it and decided that if they walked on it, they would deserve to receive the legacy of the Blood Palace. The guys had already rushed forward, but suddenly, those who were flying ahead of everyone started to lose strength and fell down. The guys guessed that there were no technicians working on this road. Su Wanyi thought that the road was testing physical strength, but she had dragon blood flowing in her, so she didn't want to lose to anyone. The guys, seeing that the girl was also walking, haughtily told her that she should go back because Su's small peace level. Su Wanyi got angry and quickly stomped down the stairs, rushing past the guys at the speed of light. The guys were surprised that her techniques were working. One of the guys bounced away fearfully when the girl ran past him. Su Wanyi was very serious, and although she had a little bit of dragon blood in her body, it was enough for her to surpass the others. Near the end of the road, the girl noticed an obelisk. She walked closer to it and read the inscription. Ye Yun, who was watching her, saw the inscription and the handwriting seemed familiar to him. His old friend had a similar one. But the master didn't believe it. After so many years, there shouldn't be any dust left of the familiar. Su Wanyi touched the inscription and suddenly tears flowed from her eyes. The girl did not realize what was happening to her. The woman in red was lying in her bed. She could sense the dragon blood in the girl and hoped that she could gain her heritage. The man in her woke up and demanded control back to him. But the girl wasn't going to give it back and said he couldn't get rid of her obsession, so asked him to give up already. But the man in her won, completely materialized, and got out of bed rudely asking if the girl was too stupid to rely on this technique. The unknown was not happy about it. The man looked up at the sky and felt the dragon's blood. He wanted to get the girl's body, because then the woman in red would no longer be able to restrain him. The girl was caught up with two guys. They all walked out to where the tower was placed in a small form. One of the guys reached for it and already wanted to take it for himself. But suddenly an image of a man came out of the tower. He was the head of the Blood Superiority Palace, and now he needed to test how strong their primal spirit was. The guy who stretched out his arms volunteered to be the first. The head with his magic penetrated his head. The guy screamed in pain. The girl got worried. The man let the dead guy go to the ground and said he was too weak. Then the second guy volunteered next, turning to Su Wanyi. Smugly told her to leave because the legacy would go to him. But suddenly a man's red magic entered his eyes and he cried out in pain. Through the pain, he guessed that it was not a test. But before the guy could name what it was, he was torn apart. Su Wanyi decided that she needed to run. The red strands of the chief's energy reached out to her. He ordered her not to resist and asked her to obediently accept her fate. He caught up with the girl, wrapped magic around her neck, penetrated her eyes. Su Wanyi mentally fought back against the man. The chief wrinkled his face in pain and asked who she was. But it turned out that the patriarch had linked their fate lines to protect Su. An angry master appeared in front of the insolent man. But the man was not confused. He pulled the tower to him and gloatingly reminded Ye Yun that he had taken the body of a person from his sect. So he asked him to stay out of the way and wait for prosperity. The ancestor felt that this power was the world of a true god. Such a thing was rare. The man was a little surprised that the man could identify his world and offered to give up the girl's body. But Ye Yun knew that he was talking to a residual soul, and he felt a little sorry, but shamed him for wanting to take the girl's body. The man got angry and attacked the wizard. Magic beams flew straight at him, but the ancestor put up a protective circle. The head, seeing that Ye Yun could defend himself from his artifact's attacks, decided that the ancestor also had an artifact. The man wanted to get his artifact. He attacked with even more force, but he failed. The world head was then very surprised that he was able to repel his attack and suggested that Ye Yun had a world above the true god world. Su Wanyi replied to him that he had no idea how much stronger her master was. Suddenly, the man, as if mad, pounced on the girl to get her strong body. But the woman who was sitting inside this man and holding him back suddenly broke through and shouted menacingly that she wouldn't let that happen. The girl in red managed to take away the body control. Ye Yun saw her and tearfully called out to her. The girl's name was Qin Yao. She was shocked, and the master enclosed her in a hug. 100,000 years ago, they knew each other. Qin Yao had tears coming out of her eyes. She had believed all this time that he wasn't dead, and now she was happy. The girl had been searching for him all these years, and now the remnants of her soul were dissipating. Qin Yao admitted that she guessed that there was something wrong with him missing, so she started to look into it. Qin Yao pulled back a little. Looking into Ye Yun's eyes, she revealed that she had learned that someone had led the ancient demons to the divine dragon sect, but they discovered her and destroyed her body. But the remnant of her soul was attached to the immortal hairpin he left her. Traveling in the abyss, she met this man and tried to take over his body. Together, they were able to obtain the legacy of the palace and blood supremacy. But the man wanted to get rid of her. Qin Yao wanted to find Ye Yun through the memories of different cultivators. For the sake of this, they opened the Blood Dust lands together and lured cultivators. Ye Yun, after hearing her story, promised not to let her suffer anymore. Qin Yao had enough of his words. The man placed his palm on her cheek. The girl clung to her. Tears flowed from her eyes and she began to crumble. Her soul followed her body. But Qin Yao was enough to see Ye Yun. The master frowned. He didn't want to say goodbye to the girl. Before completely crumbling into tiny petals, Qin Yao asked him to take care of himself. The ancestor was angry. He didn't want to let her go, extending his hand after her, promising that he would resurrect her. Ye Yun picked up the tower and carried them and Su Wanyi back to the wagon. Now, they needed to get the rest of the people out of the land of red dust. The guys who were still there saw that the legacy had already been taken away. One of them ordered everyone back to the sect. Suddenly, they noticed that the sky above them opened up. All the guys flew out of the ground. Above the cat and the horse, red fault lines were also sweeping over them. Xiao He was a little scared, while the black horse was smiling, thinking that their master had decided to go against the will of the heavens. Suddenly, a red lightning bolt hit near the cart. The horse put up a defense. The cat fell off its companion in surprise. The black horse ordered the cat not to be afraid because it was only the will of the heavens, and they were the master's animals. Ye Yun flew up into the sky and headed straight for the rift. He angrily muttered that the stealing god would not stop him. A huge stone flew towards the master from the sky. Ye Yun also threw his magic towards it, and there was an explosion. A terrifying red face appeared in the sky right in front of the master, who was displeased that Ye Yun dared to go against the heavens. But the man didn't care who was standing in front of him, because anyone who went against his will would die. The creature went wild and directed its energy at him to make the ancestor regret his words. As the terrible bloody lightning approached him, the man withdrew to choose which weapon to take. He had many, and each one wanted him to choose one. Finally, Ye Yun chose the right sword. The sword's name was Heaven-Splitting Sword. Quality: super divine level. This sword was once able to decapitate the will of the heavens. Ye Yun grabbed it and repelled the creature's attack. The blow was so strong that a large number of stones fell down. The carriage was successfully guarded by a horse. The cat suggested that such a blow could have swept away the entire Shenfeng sect. But the black horse replied that it had swept away the entire dynasty with it. For the master, the strike was successful. He asked the fragments of the heavens to gather. A ball was formed in his palm. The man decided to give them a new form. On the road, surrounded by a huge number of weapons, the master and Qin Yao walked hand in hand. The girl didn't understand where they were. The man told her that this was his private world. Ye Yun planned to first strengthen her primordial spirit, then help her to be reborn with 7 souls, and the heaven fragments would become a new body for her. Qin Yao was confused. She approached him. The girl didn't know what he had gone through in these 100,000 years, but thought it was very bitter. But that was why the master could save her. They approached the lake that contained the golden lotus. A little girl surrounded by a golden glow greeted him. She asked what kind of girl had appeared with him. The man replied that it was his consort, so he asked the girl to take good care of her and help her soul to be reborn. The girl approached Qin Yao. The girl stroked her head and said that the incarnation of Lei Qi was cute. Ye Yun used magic to attract a log to him. This tree was creating a soul, and as long as Qin Yao was here, the thunder pool would be able to strengthen the soul. The man came closer and promised that when she developed her cultivation, he would come back for her. Lei Qi happily grabbed the log, Ye Yun watching her. He didn't know when exactly Qin Yao would be able to recreate the soul, but he still had plenty of time, and this time would be enough time for him to find the assassins who were behind the destruction of the divine dragon sect. The man returned to the real world. Everything had already dispelled, and it was daytime. He called out to Su Wanyi, who was in the carriage. To the girl, he ordered her to return to the pagoda and use the pills, then start aiming for the same cultivation level as her comrades. The big black horse was to take the carriage to the Tianxing dynasty, and he himself promised to return later. Ye Yun disappeared into the sky. A tower with large spikes appeared in front of him. He was in the primordial demonic abyss. The master recalled his consort's words about Zunman being attacked by ancient trolls after his death. The ancient trolls lived for an unimaginably long time. The master decided to go to the depths of the primordial demon abyss to find clues. Powerful arms and legs reached for Ye Yun. Noticing them, the man decided to speed up. The girl spotted him, pointing her finger in that direction. She told her companions that she saw someone fly by, but they didn't believe her. In front of the abyss stood Ye Yun. A bloody hand with long claws clawed to climb out, and a demon appeared in front of the master. The terrifying monster sensed the dragon blood and immediately attacked Ye Yun, but the man aimed a large number of swords at it. They all struck the demon and it fell on its back. The troll died. The ancestor approached him and began to read his memories. In them, he saw the demon fighting the divine dragon sect. Suddenly, he heard someone's voice and turned sharply toward him. A girl with a Guqin musical instrument appeared in front of him. Her name was Nangong Yu, but he couldn't believe that it was her. The girl, just like Qin Yao, was very close to him. The heavenly demon Guqin she used was given to her by Ye Yun. The girl's cultivation was too low, so he was afraid that she wouldn't be able to defend herself. He believed that Nangong Yu wouldn't do such a thing, so he figured there was some kind of trick. Suddenly, the troll woke up. It screamed hard, but the master threw it back into the abyss. Ye Yun, while he was getting back, kept thinking that when he gave Nangong Yu the Guqin, he didn't think that she would be able to defend herself with the ancient trolls, but the Guqin could create illusions. The ancient trolls were all sealed by the 18 divine supports, so they couldn't leave the abyss. There was only one option as to how this could happen. Someone with a true god world could suppress the pillar, but there were no such cultivators 100,000 years ago. Ye Yun flew to the spiked pipe, placing his palm on it, thinking that the people who destroyed the sect came from the sacred lands. The man pushed off from the pipe and rushed back. He decided that since he had enough time, he could play. The boys had been attacked by trolls and were now screaming and begging the girl to leave them here so that the ancestors' teachings would live on. When the guy, having fended off the troll attack with his last strength, yelled for her to run away, the girl turned around and ran away with tears in her eyes. The guys wanted to fulfill Ancestor Nangong's last will, but ended up stuck with the trolls. A powerful blue glow killed all the demons at once. The guys covered their eyes with their hands from the light. The master, having heard his friend's name, had helped the guys and was now asking about her. The guys bowed to him and thanked him, but they were surprised that he knew their ancestor. The man asked what teachings of the ancestor they were talking about. One of them replied that Nangong Yu, their ancestor, had founded a sect 100,000 years ago. Another said that after a major war, her spirit became unstable. She was unable to wake up until she died. After that, the girl threw her artifact, a heavenly demon Guqin, into the abyss and left instructions for her sect on how to bring her back. This Guqin contained her last letter. The sister returned to them, and the boys joyfully told her that they were fortunate enough to meet someone who knew Ancestor Nangong. Ye Yun, towering over them, told them that the heavenly demon's Guqin was not in the abyss. The girl thanked the master. The master concluded that Nangong was also just a puppet. Ye Yun heard a sound. A battle with the king of gods awaited him. The horse and cat were worried that the ancestor didn't come back for a long time. Immediately, a powerful glow appeared from the sky. The horse and cat were happy to see the master. The horse informed the master that they had reached the lands of the Tianxing dynasty, so they asked where they would go next. Ye Yun found out about the fake divine dragon sect, and since he was busy because he would be developing the younger ones too, he instructed the horse and cat to deal with this sect. The guys didn't waste any time and immediately went to fulfill the order. They caught sight of two guys who were practicing. They liked to deal with low-level sects because if you were strong enough, you could do whatever you wanted with them. The horse smiled ominously and took on the guise of a human, a young guy, and also lowered his level. The cat didn't understand such a change, but the horse explained that it would be easier for these people to handle a person of similar age and strength level. The black horse suddenly came out to them, came down in front of them, and asked who was ready to fight him. After all the talking, they proceeded to fight. The horse, while fending off his attacks, couldn't feel the spirit of the dragon's power in him, so he assumed they were cheaters. The guy started threatening that if this happened again, he would use his sect's technique. The black horse, hearing this, was surprised. The guy got into a pose and started conjuring his technique. A dragon came out of his sword, but it was very weak. But the guy was satisfied with his technique. The black horse just remained silent. The sectarian threw a punch, but the horse dodged. The black horse pretended to be scared and ran away from him. He and the cat huddled in the bushes and watched the guy from the divine dragon sect. The cat felt that the technique had something similar to their real one, but it was different. The horse was bothered by even this slight resemblance, so he suggested that the cat follow the guy all the way to the sect. The guy plucked some flour and walked happily back to his sect. On its entrance, it was written that it was the divine dragon sect. The horse grabbed the cat's head and flew upwards. He sensed a cultivator with the fate world and wanted to look at him. They arrived at this cultivator. The old man fearfully asked who they were. The horse affected his mind with a look. The black horse was surprised that there was a cultivator with just a fate world sitting in the pagoda with scriptures. The cat took on a more human form, but his ears and his tail went nowhere. He playfully said that soon there would be no more of him or the scriptures. For these words he received from the horse again, because there was one trash here that he was ashamed to even take in his hands. So he ordered Xiaohei to take everything that was related to the sect. On the first floor, the cat found the dragon body technique. On the second floor, the horseman found the flying dragon sword technique. On the third floor, they found the mind technique, the body technique, and the sword technique. These names were exactly the same as the three main techniques of the divine dragon sect. After reading a bit, the guys realized that they were completely different from them. But the cat had a feeling that the source was common. The horse, after closing the book, suggested that this sect might be an offshoot of the master sect. So he suggested that the cat find someone with dragon blood flowing in them. Through the grate, they watched the guys training. They didn't find any people with dragon blood or essence. The male horse suggested going back to the treasury. The door was joyfully smashed open by the cat and immediately saw chests of gold and a sword. The man went inside and decided that this was indeed an offshoot of the sect. He warned the cat not to touch anything because they decided to look for a hiding place. The horse turned his attention to the wall that had a picture of a dragon on it. The man had a strong feeling that this decoration was a lock used by the sect, hence the hiding place. He touched it and demanded it open. Everything shimmered, the wall disappeared. On the nightstand was a jug. The man immediately recognized it as dragon's blood and essence. The cat could smell it too. The horse took it in his hands and said that they should take this and the tapestry to the master. They decided that if they had blood, then perhaps the sect was indeed an offshoot. The guys passed all the sectarians quietly because the horse was using the illusion dissecting eye. The seal praised him for it. They came to the ancestral hall to see if their master's name was there. And they did find their master. The guys were confused, and the cat thought it was another legacy of Ye Yun. The horse and the cat each lit 3 incense. They decided to leave when the incense was finished. The guys planned to tell everything to the master. The cat hoped he would be pleased. As they were about to fly out to return to their master, suddenly they noticed a blackness in the sky. They flew closer to it. There was some kind of black eye coming straight out of the ground. The horse decided to pierce the floor and see what was there. He aimed his magic at it, but the man couldn't pierce the world of eternity. But the black horse was not confused and decided to use the artifact his master had given him. Using his sword, he directed lightning bolts at the blackness, and it began to dispel. The world opened up. Suddenly, a black dragon appeared from there. Xiaohei was completely shocked, but the horse wasn't that impressed by it. After all, they saw those every day. But the man was just messing with him. Taking a closer look at the dragon, the cat said that it had been dead for a long time. The black horse approached him. He didn't understand why the sect had sealed the dead black dragon, but suddenly he noticed that there was a sword in it, and the man assumed that was what killed it. But the cat also noticed that the sword was not alone. The horse had grabbed the sword. He took it out of the dragon, and a white funnel of lightning formed in the sky, and there were 6 swords still in the dragon, each with a different name. The one the horse pulled out was Tian Shu. The 7 swords in the dragon were connected to the constellation of the Great Bear. It was a 7-star formation. Suddenly, the cat noticed that the surroundings were getting lighter and the darkness was returning. The horse agreed that it was strange. The kitty returned to his form. The man took him in his arms, and they went back to the master to tell him all about it. The guys appeared at the master's house, laying out all the items they found in the sect, reporting that they had finished investigating. The cat assumed that this sect was somehow related to him. Ye Yin got out of the carriage, taking out a book, listening to the cat's story about the black dragon that had a 7-star seal on it. The man decided to go himself and called the horse with him and ordered the cat to guard the carriage. They traveled back to the sect. First, they visited the ancestral hall. The man was sure that these rogues were no match for the true heritage, but they were stronger than ordinary cultivators. But seeing the names of the sect heads of the divine dragon sect, was surprised. The horse asked if the sect was an offshoot of theirs. The man replied that they would find out now and carried them over to the dragon. Ye Yun scanned the black dragon and frowned. The technique was cruel. It was capable of not only killing the sect's children, but also suppressing and capturing their strength. He didn't realize that he dared to treat his sect like this. The horse clarified with the master that this technique was needed to steal the luck of the divine dragon sect. The master said that the black dragon was given the power of fate that equaled the sect's luck, and the 7 swords made up the demonic dragon formation. Every night, the 7-star demonic dragon formation would infiltrate the sect upstairs, stealing their luck. The horse guessed that because the divine dragon sect was eternal, they couldn't handle it, so they went tricky and stole the luck. The horse was furious. He wanted to destroy this formation, but Ye Yun stopped him, saying that if he did so, the divine dragon sect above them would also be destroyed. The black horse realized that the sect above them was fake. The master explained that the people behind everything had founded a fake sect to steal the luck of their real sect with this build. The black horse was enraged. He wanted to destroy both the construct and this sect, but the master asked him to take his time. He wanted to meet the head of this divine Draco sect first. Ye Yun and the horse got rid of the black dragon and swords first, and only then went to see the head. The head was sitting in the lotus posture. The master asked the horse to lower the level to his, and then fight him to see how the head had mastered the 3 unique techniques of the divine dragon sect. The man did everything as the master asked and then landed right in front of the sect head. The old man asked in bewilderment who he was. The horse lied that he was curious about the sect's 3 techniques. The head of the fake sect felt that the person in front of him had a level just below his, but he didn't feel how he had gotten to him. But he didn't feel angry either. The old man immediately warned that the man couldn't defeat him. The man asked why he felt that way. Then the old man told him that tens of thousands of years ago, the sect was already great, and the sect head, Ye Yun, was a born genius. Ye Yun, upon hearing this, smiled contentedly. The sect head smugly said that he had an eternal level sect's legacy in his hands, so he wouldn't be able to defeat him. The horse got tired of talking and went on the attack. The old man drew his sword, and a golden dragon appeared behind him. The head kept saying that the man was no match for him. The old man sent beams of energy at the man, but this technique was too weak for the horse, so it was definitely a fake. The horse's fist slammed right into the sword of the fake sect head. The master, who was watching at the side, saw that it was a pitiful semblance, not even a quality imitation. Suddenly, he intervened in the fight and ended it. The ancestor applied the eye technique, and the entire fake sect was vaporized. The horse was delighted and praised the master. The man angrily replied to him that this sect was stealing the luck of the real sect, so they deserved it. The entire sect Yeyun destroyed. The black horse asked if the master had collected everything. But the master had not collected everything. There were martial arts left behind by their predecessors in their memories. The man released the blue beetles. He decided to leave them here, so that if the person behind it all sent people, they would know about it. Yeyun also had an idea for the 7-star demonic dragon seal. So with the horse, they were going to Tianheng sect. Yeyun gathered everyone in front of him. They should reach the next level soon, so the new training place would be Tianheng sect. Moshang knew that these were sacred lands. The patriarch was surprised that he knew about them. After all, they had just returned, and he himself had not had time to tell everything. Suwanyi said that in the lands of blood dust, she came across a soul who tried to take her body. She defeated him, but he begged for mercy and said that he came from the sacred lands, so he knew why their sect was destroyed. But the guy attacked her, and she had to kill him. The patriarch said that the unknown man told the truth. He himself believed that the sacred lands were behind the fall of their sect. But first, they had to solve the sect's luck. The man showed them a bas-relief that he had carved himself. In was not the luck of their sect. Moshang decided to take the monument, but Luoli asked him not to rush, but to finish listening to the master first. The forefather replied that it wasn't just about luck. The Tianheng sect had used the seal of the Great Bear to suppress their luck. It was the sect heads from the first generation to his that had created 13 dragon monuments. They were divided among 13 different sects, but Su didn't understand why they went to such lengths to suppress their sect. But the master himself didn't know the answer to this question. His teacher treated him as his child, so he tried not to hide anything, but perhaps his teacher himself didn't know about the secret of the holy dragon. Still, Yeyun was sure that this secret was only known to the first master of the divine dragon sect. The patriarch sent the guys using magic directly to the monument. Luoli wept, walked closer to the statue, and placed her hand on it. She was hurt that her sect had suffered so much humiliation. A dragon appeared to the girl out of anger. She promised that everyone would pay for it in blood. Suddenly, the disciples of the Tianheng sect began to fly over. They were unhappy that outsiders had invaded their land. Luoli, Mosheng, and Suwanyi drew their swords together, and 3 golden dragons erupted out of them by themselves. Its light was so dazzling that some of the guys shrieked. This didn't stop the enemies. They decided to pile on the 3 all together. They laid a trap on the 3 dragons. Luoli told her sister and brother to look for weaknesses. The girl found a weak spot and broke out of the trap. But suddenly the main one appeared to them. He came to avenge his students and pounced on the boys. But a golden beam passed through his heads, and his strength dropped to the first level of the Nirvana world. Moshang swooped down on him and cut open his throat. Luoli guessed that it was the patriarch watching over them, because he had sent them to raise their levels. The guys decided to avenge the sect head. They fought hard, beams of magic flying in different directions. Finally, the guys finished fighting the Tianheng sect. Suddenly, Mo Xiang saw a mountain of gold. There was a kitty sitting next to it. The guy was happy that they had killed so many people. But Xiaohei told him that it was the patriarch who killed most of them, with just his eyes. Luoli approached the monument again. The girl put her hand forward and wanted to use the ring to take home, but nothing happened. Suwanyi speculated that it might have been because the monument was sealed with a 7-star formation. Yeyun appeared and confirmed Su's words. All the guys greeted their patriarch. The man held out his palm towards the monument and pulled it out of the ground and lifted it into the air. Ominous vapors began to appear from the hole. Luoli assumed there was a monster in there. The master said there was nothing serious, and he would appear to them soon. Suddenly, a terrible demon jumped out of the hole. When he saw the guys, he went mad because he hadn't eaten human flesh in a long time. The monster swung at them, but the ancestor flashed his eyes and several swords flew at the demon. The monster fell down in front of their feet. Yeyun asked who brought it, but the demon didn't know that. The demon thought that they were in the sacred lands, but the girl told him that he was in the sun and continent. Yeyun scanned him and noticed that there was a soul-sealing seal on his memory sea. Suddenly there was a glow, then an explosion. Light rays started coming out of the monster itself, and then it exploded. The man managed to put up a shield in time. Luoli was glad he was with them, or else they might not have survived it. Yun told the guys that there was a seal on the demon's mind. If anyone tried to read it, the demon would explode. Many things appeared in front of them, and the guys needed to deal with them first. The ancestor asked Luoli to put everything away, and only after that the girl tried once again to send the monument home. This time everything worked. The stone was enveloped by a magical blue glow. The master gathered the boys in front of him and ordered them to improve, because in a month they will reach the world of Nirvana. Then they will go to the Tianyue dynasty. The man released a beetle to see if the people the Tianheng sect would send would come. Suddenly, there was a sparkle in the sky and many towers, and a beautiful view appeared in the sky in front of them. The boys asked the master what it was. The man told them that it was the Palace of the Nine Pagodas, a trial that appeared once every 10 years. There was an immortality herb growing there, one capable of increasing the length of life by thousands of years. Yeyun's cultivation was too great, so he sent the guys there. The guys were excited. They wanted to enter together. But the patriarch said that when a palace appeared from one faction, only one person could enter there. So they could only send one of the guys the guy asked the most, and the master chose him. He joyfully flew up into the sky. Luoli was worried that he would go there alone. Su reassured her that with the patriarch's protection, nothing would happen to him. Suddenly his brother came back to them. He painfully landed on the ground and tearfully told her that no humans were allowed there, only the demon clan. Mo Xiang was very upset, but Luoli told him not to be upset because they had many other trials ahead of them. Yeyun was surprised that the rules had changed, but he decided to send another candidate there. The cat looked at him with sparkling eyes. The man sent him to the hidden palace of the Nine Pagodas. He took a more human form. Also, the patriarch gave him an imperial artifact, which he was very happy about. Xiao Hui approached the blue vortex. There were already many people standing there. A girl spotted him and offered Xiao Hui to go together, but the cat refused. But the girl was also a cat, so she thought he would help her. But the cat felt that the girl's cultivation wasn't that good, so he didn't understand how she knew he was a cat. The girl happily said that she found out thanks to the heavenly spirit mirror. Xiao Hui realized that she was from the civet family. Suddenly an axe landed right in front of him. The girl decided to leave quickly. The cat turned towards the direction from where the weapon came from. A pig-nosed giant was standing nearby. He was not happy that he was talking to his fiancée, so he decided to introduce him to his axe. The giant swung his axe at the cat. Xiao Hui stopped him with his foot. The man was stronger than the cat, so he decided not to delay his master's errand. The cat went into the blue vortex, but the giant didn't want to let him go and threw his axe right after him. But the weapon stopped right in front of the portal. The cat walked right after the girl, but there wasn't a soul around, but he figured that all the demons appeared in different places. Xiao Hui's world level was downgraded, but he wasn't worried about it because he had Brother Ma's shield and the boots the patriarch had given him with him. Suddenly he saw a flower in front of him. He didn't know what kind of flower it was, but he heard footsteps behind him. It was that girl. He thought the cat girl had decided to set a trap for him, so he rushed menacingly at her. The girl in fear put her mirror in front of her. It began to let out rays, and the cat had to hide from it. But the cat had a shield, and with the help of it he was able to get to her. He hit her and said it was because she had pulled her fiancé on him. The girl didn't want it, but the cat kept hitting her. A dark silhouette of her fiancé appeared in the darkness. He was calling out to her. The girl's name was Mao Bauera. She covered her mouth with her hand, but a giant had already come out to them and loomed over the cat, who froze with his hand up. The man was very angry and promised that he would beat them very long and hard. Suddenly, black lines of magic appeared from the flower. They headed straight for the trio. Xiao Hui covered himself and Mao with his shield. But the threads of magic were able to grab the giant, but he was still very strong, so the cat decided not to mess with him. The giant swung away from the black magic, pointed his sword at the couple, and said that he didn't think they would get together quickly. The kitty at first did not understand what he was carrying, but, seeing the girl in front of him, decided not to deal with it, grabbed her and ran away. The man shouted that he would chop them to pieces. They broke away from him, and when the cat made sure they were safe, told Mao that she could go, and he needed to find the herb of immortality. The cat girl asked to take him along. She wasn't here for the herb, so she promised to help the cat with her mirror. Xiao Hui agreed, but warned that if she did anything, he would leave her immediately. Mao shined her mirror on the grass, and the kitty happily picked everything up. Suddenly, a huge golden fist appeared right out of the wall and aimed straight at the cat. Xiao Hui struggled to hold it back, and then he and the girl quickly ran together. When they broke away, the cat, leaning against the wall after running, asked Mao what it was. The girl said that there were legends that many cultivators who entered the hidden palace were killed by a single strike from the golden giant. The cat ordered them to continue searching for grass and warned that if her mirror sensed danger again, they would flee at once. They reached the tall gate. Together they managed to open it. The cat girl and cat guy went outside. Mao worriedly noticed that the mountain in front of them was like a black dragon. Xiaohui didn't believe it after all. Mountains are huge and a dragon couldn't be like that. The patriarch glumly thought that the hidden palace of the 9 pagodas was not that simple. Xiaohui, holding the cat girl in his arms, flew above the black mountains.